Chapter 23-25. The 7 ethereal immortal palace keys connected like divine birds, looking resplendent and dazzling. On the demon blood vulture's back, Xiao Chen, Chu Chaoyun, and the other 2 looked into the distance, entering deep thought. Xiao Chen thought to himself, the 7 ethereal immortal palace keys formed a circle, looking incredibly dazzling. However, the circle was pitch black. This formed a clear contrast with the light of the keys. That pitch-black circle was frighteningly dark, giving off faint spatial fluctuations. To others, the scene before them looked like a total solar eclipse. Aside from slight shock, they could not see any other mysteries or obtain any more information. However, the nearby cultivators were either great perfection sovereign emperors or outstanding talents like Shaoqin. They could sense the space-time fluctuations in the black hole, so they frowned heavily and showed grave expressions. The space-time Great Tao split into 2. One was the Time Tao, and the other was the Space Great Tao. The latter was still fine. The sovereign emperors present had many experts who comprehended the Space Great Tao or soul tools or secret techniques related to the Space Great Tao. For example, Xiao Chen's firmament's rage had a deep connection to the Space Great Tao. The 5-element divine lightning grew endlessly in Xiao Chen's palm, materializing a simplified small world. This was the manifestation of the Space Great Tao. Another example was someone like Dao Yen, who grasped the 10th layer Ice Tao domain and could materialize a small world. However, the former, the Time Tao, was a great Tao that inspired despair. If one grasped a little of it, one could sweep through the world. Even during the peak of the martial epic, no one grasped the Time Tao. Not to mention the current martial epic. Xiao Chen's state of cycle touched upon the Time Tao. However, it was far from the Time Tao. The faint fluctuations made it easy to connect it to the wings of time. At the same time, the results of the 3rd round of the succession race on the ancient Yen Emperor tree slowly became clear. The 9th Prince Wang Yen and the 4th Prince Wang Yun led the other princes by a large margin. If nothing unexpected happened, these 2 would ascend to the top of the Yen Emperor tree and decide the victor. However, not many people paid attention to the final outcome of this succession race. The various feudal lords and noble clan powerhouses in the palace focused their gazes on the black hole giving off space-time fluctuations. They showed horrified expressions and panted, not daring to say anything. This was too shocking. The ethereal immortal palace actually appeared. The strongest soul tool in the world, the Wings of Time, was in there as the epic changed. The ethereal immortal palace's importance went without saying. Perhaps whoever grasped the Wings of Time would have the absolute initiative at this juncture of the change of epics. It could even be said that whoever grasped the Wings of Time would be the next master of the era. The sovereign emperor could not help feeling. Now that it involved the change of an epic, the situation was likely not something that the imperial ancestral temple could control. In the past, foe gods had never paid attention to the prophecies of the ethereal immortal palace. However, if the ethereal immortal palace really appeared, no foe god would be able to sit still. Qinzhao's Dragon Palace appeared, and dragon. At this moment, foe gods would definitely be alarmed. At that time, the imperial capital Yen City might become a battlefield for foe gods. Emperor and Dao Emperor and Qin and had and mountain into and one. And 3 people stood at the foot of the huge Buddha statue at the summit of Spirit Vulture Mountain. Abbot Su Yi stood in the middle, while sword god Su Hanshan and the spring snow bladesman Pan Huang stood on the left and right. The 3 of them looked down the mountain. Even Pan Huang, who had always been aloof, showed a grave expression. The ethereal immortal palace really appeared. Abbot Su Yi pressed his palms together and let out a long sigh, his tone strangely grave. Su Hanshan hugged a sword. Even from a great distance, he seemed to be able to see everything that happened in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb, not missing out on any details. Who do you think is his pawn? Pan Huang smiled and retorted, "Who are you talking about?" Su Hanshan frowned slightly, somewhat unable to suppress his murderous intent. He retorted, "Stop putting on an act. Do you know who I'm talking about?" "All right, I'll stop messing around with you." You do not dare to say his name, but I have nothing to fear. Are you trying to ask who among the people with the ethereal immortal palace keys is the faux god world's holy lord's pawn? Pan Huang did not care about the sword god's murderous intent. He smiled and continued, the geniuses nurtured by the 5 superfactions are all possible. Perhaps it is Qin Ming, perhaps it is Wenren Yu, perhaps it is Chu Chaoyan. In any case, it can't be Xiao Qin, right? Su Hanshan interrupted Pan Huang, saying softly. Pan Huang's expression slowly turned serious. After some thought, he said, as for who is most likely, naturally it is Qin Ming. You and I both know that. The Golden Dragon Emperor's bloodline is a dog that he personally nurtured. Not to mention anything else, they are at least loyal. Abbot Su Yi felt a mountainous pressure as he stood between the two. Only these 2 people dared to talk about the current era master without any inhibitions. Although the martial epic was on the verge of collapse, no matter what, the epic master was a horrifying existence that deterred an entire epic. Putting aside the Holy Lord, Xiao Qin looked at the current situation. Experts that only faux gods could sense were rushing over from all directions. Their strong auras spread throughout the Yanwu dynasty. These experts stared at the imperial capital, Yan City, like tigers eyeing their prey. Among them were some horrifying old monsters. The faux gods of the righteous Tao and demonic Tao descended silently. However, Su Hanshan and Pan Huang chatted cheerfully, not caring about the arrival of these faux gods. Su Yi withdrew his gaze and sighed softly, the ethereal immortal palace has appeared, and the epic has changed. Strong enemies surround us, making life and death hard to predict. However, the 2 of you remain so calm. This old monk admires you. Since the 2 of us have already lit our divine flames, we are destined to be unable to sever the karma of the martial epic. No matter the outcome, today should be the last time we make a move. It was as if Su Hanshan was speaking his last words before his death, words that would shock the world had been uttered by Su Hanshan so casually. There was no nostalgia or pity in Su Hanshan's eyes. Instead, there was a fanaticism that bordered on madness. That was his dedication to the sword Tao. To Su Hanshan, life and death were not as important as the sword Tao. Pan Huang smiled faintly and said, your backyard is in trouble. You should be even more anxious than the 2 of us. Can you deal with it? When Su Yi heard that, his expression suddenly changed. Naturally, Pan Huang referred to Yuan Zhen, who appeared with the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's karma. After a pause, Su Yi said somewhat helplessly, junior brother Su Yun already made a move. However, even if he successfully subdued Yuan Zhen, it would be pointless. The situation is already set. Be it the Black Lotus Church, the Azure Lotus Church, or the current Orthodox Buddhist sect, they were the 2 sides of the Kitagarbha Buddha. However, the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva had a completely different philosophy. Once the Kitagarbha Buddha gained the upper hand, the golden Kitagarbha Buddha statue on Spirit Vulture Mountain would instantly shatter. The consequences would be even more severe than the Black Lotus Church gaining the upper hand. The various feudal lords and noble clan powerhouses in the palace already felt somewhat restless, feeling very unnatural. They could all guess that a startling battle would take place. A group of peerless experts that they could not understand would definitely fight each other over the wings of time. The Yanwu dynasty, which possessed deep accumulations, was like a small boat in a storm before this group of experts, unable to decide its own fate. Perhaps the Yanwu dynasty's clan elders already knew about this and participated in it. However, this made things difficult for them. They did not know what to do. Under the gazes of a group of faux gods, they did not dare to leave even if they wanted to. If they did not leave, they feared being implicated. The aloof experts who dominated a region or ruled the world all felt how insignificant they were before the epic's change. However, in reality, they did not know. The faux gods who looked so terrifying and powerful that they could not understand could not help themselves either. They were also like a small boat in a storm that could capsize at any moment. The fear and anxiety in his heart were not any less than what they were feeling. In fact, he could empathize with them even more. One could say that the more one gained, the more one feared losing. However, more accurately, the deeper the karma, the harder it was to escape. Chapter 23-26. In the ancient Yen Emperor tomb, the 7 ethereal palace keys turned into a divine bird that was connected from head to tail, spinning nonstop. The pitch-black black hole in the circle was faintly emitting space-time fluctuations. Everyone present felt that it was the passageway to the immortal palace. However, guessing was just guessing. In front of the real passageway, the fanatical group of people all became cautious. A space-time tunnel. This was a space-time passageway. Who knew where it would lead to? There were just too many unexpected things. There was no lack of space-time cracks in the major wide world. Even if a faux god was unfortunate enough to be sucked into one, it would be difficult for them to escape. Furthermore, this group of sovereign emperors naturally did not dare to act rashly. Are you going in? Qin Ming had an impulse in his heart, and a fanatical flame flashed in his eyes. The dragon race had once used the wings of time to defeat the unparalleled Black Dragon King. Qin Ming had a special feeling toward the immortal palace and the wings of time. Sikong Shu looked around and saw Yuan Zhen, Yen Congming, Wenren Yu, and the others frowning slightly. They were all thinking of a foolproof plan, not intending to act rashly. It's better to be cautious. Although we have the treasure that the purple gold dragon emperor entrusted to us, we shouldn't reveal it too early. Withdrawing his gaze, Sikong Shu said in a deep voice. The fervor in Qin Ming's eyes intensified. He said softly, "What are you afraid of? Riches and honor come from danger. For the sake of the wings of time, we can definitely take this risk. As long as we seize the initiative, the wings of time will definitely be ours." The Silver Dragon King advised with a grave expression, "Don't be rash. Who here can guarantee that they do not have trump cards? Let's make a plan before we act. There are quite a few people here, and I still can't see through them." Upon hearing the Silver Dragon King sigh, Qin Mu's lips twitched, clearly dissatisfied. But in the end he calmed down and didn't say anything more. While the group watched and hesitated, Jiang He, who was now far away from the core zone, was with Lin Feng. When the 7 keys were connected end to end, he suddenly felt his heartbeat quicken and his blood flow reverse. He was in a trance, and his face was frighteningly pale. How unbearable! Jiang He dropped to his knees with a thump, clutching his chest as he looked up into the distance at the dazzling circle of light where the key was connected to the divine bird. The field of vision was blurry and hazy. Nothing could be seen clearly. The inheritance key, is it really with me? Father, what did you do to me? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Jiang He! Jiang He! Beside him, Lin Feng jumped in fright and crouched to check on Jiang He's condition. Jiang He's consciousness blurred. All he felt was that he was immeasurably weak, and someone seemed to be calling his name beside his ear. His vision was filled with the bright light of the key. Compared to the physical pain, his heart hurt more. At this moment, no matter how stupid he was, he could guess that the inheritance key was really related to him. But why didn't his father tell him? Why didn't you tell me? In his hazy consciousness, in his blurry vision, a figure appeared in the boundless light. That silhouette seemed illusory and ethereal under the light. Behind him, there was a little guy squinting his eyes as he looked at the back of the tall mountain with a gaze of worship. What do you think an expert is? The little guy clenched his fists, clenched his teeth and firmly said, "Of course it's people like Father, only then can they be experts." Shao Chen's father was a heaven dragon that everyone in the Divine Dragon Empire respected. He was a heaven dragon that was even more powerful than the purple gold dragon emperor. Am I an expert? However, this empire has already rotted to its roots, becoming a dog in someone else's hands. I'm just a slightly stronger dog. The little guy revealed a confused expression on his cute face. He could not understand what his father was saying. The little guy bit his finger, unable to understand no matter how he thought about it. This made his young and tender face look even cuter. Although that figure did not turn around, Shao Chen could clearly see his appearance. He could not help smiling. Father is leaving. Remember to do your homework properly in the future. Don't ever be lazy. The little guy felt nervous for some reason. He ran over and hugged that figure's legs stubbornly. Why does father have to leave? Little Jiang, he does not allow father to leave. Why? Because father has the heart of an expert. Little Jiang, you have to remember that being an expert is not about strength but about one's heart. If you can understand this, you will become a heaven dragon one day as well. Right after Xiao Chen spoke, no matter how the little guy called out, that figure gradually moved further away until it vanished. The scene changed. A group of youths surrounded the little guy in Ancestor Dragon City, using their fists and legs to beat him up. Little bastard, you stole young Master Qin's things again. That's what you get for stealing. That's what you get for stealing. I'll beat you to death. You are indeed a lowly mixed blood dragon. I wonder, why are you staying in Ancestor Dragon City? The little guy curled up on the ground. His face was swollen, but he tightly hugged a saber in his embrace, unwilling to let go. The little guy clenched his teeth. His eyes watered, but no tears fell. He stubbornly said, I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. This is my father's saber. My father gave it to me. Ha! Your father is a sinner. Everything he has already been confiscated. Now, it all belongs to young Master Qin Ming. Your father overestimated himself, wanting to rebel and sneak attack the purple gold dragon emperor. Sparing your life is a gift from the Qin clan. I won't allow you to say that my father is a heaven dragon. He is a heaven dragon. The little guy on the ground suddenly erupted with a ferocious expression, knocking back all the surrounding youths. Bang! However, the little guy only took 2 steps before he went flying back. A footprint appeared on his face, and blood flowed from his nose. The youth, Qin Ming, appeared and said indifferently, Little mixed blood dragon, just keep this broken saber. This young master has many treasures. If you dare to steal in the future, it will not be as simple as beating you up. Bastard. Trash mixed blood dragon. Where did you get the face to stay in Ancestor Dragon City with us divine dragon bloodlines? The youths slowly went far away. However, the unpleasant words did not disappear. The little guy hugged his saber and looked at the sky, ignoring these humiliating words. In his heart, he was thinking about why his father had left and why he hadn't said anything to him. In the blink of an eye, the little guy turned into Jiang He. Then, he hugged his saber and looked at Ancestor Dragon City behind him. Jiang He showed a resolute and stubborn gaze as he clenched his right fist and said, I must find you. I want to ask you why. Then he left Ancestor Dragon City without even looking back. Lin Feng felt somewhat helpless. After Jiang He fell, he started babbling nonsense, occasionally asking why. Why do you have so many whys? You are about to die. What should I do now? Lin Feng felt somewhat helpless. He had never heard of Jiang He's situation before. His bloodline flowed in reverse, his divine energy turned chaotic, and his divine seal reversed. To think that he was still alive. Lin Feng, who was proficient in the Death Dao, could not understand this strange situation. Just as Lin Feng was at his wit's end, his expression changed slightly. Then he saw Jiang He's chest release a faint light. After a while, the light spread to Jiang He's entire body, slowly turning immaterial. What the heck? Lin Feng bent over, wanting to check. Then he placed his hand on Jiang He's body. Without any warning, the two vanished into thin air. At the same time, the black hole in the ring of light formed by the keys suddenly shattered. As Xiao Chen looked into the circle, he saw a world inside. A palace that was sparkling and translucent like beautiful jade and gave off a celestial spiritual aura was faintly discernible. That palace looked ethereal amid the clouds, inspiring yearning. The ethereal immortal palace. Yan Songming, the Silver Dragon King, and the others could no longer hold themselves back. To think of a perfect plan? To be cautious, someone else would take the initiative to enter the ethereal immortal palace. Whoosh! Immediately, light and figures flickered. Yuan Zhen, Yan Songming, and the others executed their various means, executing exquisite movement techniques as they flew towards the tunnel. On the demon blood vulture's back, Xiao Chen entered deep thought, not daring to be sure. Is it really an ethereal immortal palace? Unfortunately, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor had no choice but to erase all his memories of the ethereal immortal palace. Back then, under the pressure of the Holy Lord and the experts under him, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor had been forced to hand over the wings of time. He had no choice but to erase his memories of this. Even though it was right before him, Xiaochen could not learn too many clues. This is the ethereal immortal palace. The wings of time must be in there. Chu Chaoyun, who was beside Xiaochen, showed a determined expression as he stood up and prepared to fly in. Xiaochen asked, "Are you not going in with us? We'll talk after we enter." Chu Chaoyun's body paused slightly. After hesitating for a moment, he stayed behind in the end. "Big brother, is this person trustworthy?" Xiao Suo, who had been recuperating on the demon blood vulture, suddenly opened his eyes and asked as he watched Chu Chaoyun leave. Hao Kai also looked at Xiaochen. After all, the two did not know about the past grudges between Chu Chaoyun and Xiaochen. It was normal for Hao Kai to have such doubts. Is he trustworthy? Xiaochen did not know, but he knew how to answer this question. He replied calmly, "My saber will never attack him first." Chapter 23-27. There were many mysteries about Chu Chaoyun. How did he enter the ancient Yan Emperor tomb? What secrets did he have that he could not speak of? It was hard for Xiaochen to answer whether he believed it or not. However, Xiaochen was certain that no matter what, he would not take the initiative to attack Chu Chaoyun. "Come, let's go as well." Xiaochen shouted, and the demon blood vulture turned into a beam of scarlet light, entering the space-time tunnel. Whoosh! The instant the demon blood vulture passed through the key, the scene changed. The demon blood vulture appeared in a mirror-smooth immortal lake with mist-like spiritual energy. A magnificent palace made of white jade stood in the center of the immortal lake. The palace looked like the most perfect work of art in the world. It was pure white and flawless, so perfect that it did not seem like something of this world. This made one sigh in amazement. When one looked at it, one could not bear to look away. The palace was like an otherworldly fairy, so beautiful that it entered one's heart. With just one look, one could not let it slip away. It made one forget everything, intoxicated with it, unable to wake up from this beautiful dream. "That's not right." Xiaochen's expression changed slightly as he suddenly startled awake. His mind felt dazed. When Xiaochen's vision cleared, he saw that Xiao Suo and Wu Meng had already jumped off the demon blood vulture. As the two walked on the lake, they headed for the immortal palace. However, what was even more horrifying was that the two of them were slowly sinking deeper and deeper into the lake. Yet, they did not even realize it. Xiaochen soared into the air and turned into a beam of light before landing on the two. Then, he grabbed one with each hand and pulled, ferociously pulling the two out. Whoosh! Water splashed everywhere, startling Xiao Suo and Wu Meng to their senses. They asked with some confusion, "What happened?" Xiaochen put down the two and honestly told them what he saw. The two paled in fright. They felt a chill run down their backs, and their bodies trembled slightly. This was too terrifying. They did not feel anything at all. The two were considered experts, but they did not feel anything earlier. If not for Xiaochen, they might have already sunk to the bottom of the lake. "Big brother, look!" On the surface of the lake, Xiao Suo suddenly jumped in fright. He pointed at the bottom of the lake and took a few steps back. At the bottom of the clear lake, there were many corpses of celestial fairies floating in the air. They looked exactly like how they were when they were alive. Their faces were beautiful, and their skin was as white as snow. However, there was no sign of life at all. It was extremely strange. Immortal Burial Lake. Seeing this scene, Xiaochen blurted out. Just as he finished speaking, he seemed a little confused. How did he know that this place was called the Celestial Burial Lake? It seemed like he had never seen such secrets or ancient records in hiding. Celestial Burial Lake? Hao Kai frowned slightly and muttered, "So, the legend is true." Xiao Suo asked curiously, "What legend?" Hao Kai looked at Xiaochen and said, "Legend has it that before the immortal epic ended, the supreme female immortal of the immortal court, Shi Wangmu, sensed a calamity descending. He couldn't bear to see his face ruined and his body destroyed, so he led a group of fairies to throw themselves into an immortal lake at the peak of Mount Kunlun, committing suicide. At that time, all the people of the immortal court saw this shocking scene. That was how Immortal Burial Lake got its name. Shi Huangmu's death by jumping into the lake also marked the beginning of the immortal epic's destruction. Shi Huangmu had been in existence equal to an immortal king during the immortal epic. Even in the martial epic, one could find a few words about her in some hidden ancient texts. However, such a peerless and supreme Queen Mother of the West, in the face of the change of epics, was completely defeated. Similarly, he was helpless and chose to end his own life. Xiao Suo immediately trembled. Then, he said with some lingering fear, "That is to say, if not for Big Brother earlier, we would have gone down to accompany these immortal corpses? You are Shi Huangmu, and you are also at the bottom of this immortal burial lake?" Xiao Chen asked as he looked at Hao Kai. Hao Kai shook his head and replied, "I am not sure about that. I read about it in an ancient record. If not for Brother Xiao saying the words immortal burial lake, I would not have remembered it." "Big Brother, how do you know about immortal burial lake?" Xiao Chen showed a complicated expression. However, he could not answer Xiao Suo's question. Perhaps he had read about it in an ancient record before. However, he had forgotten about it just like Hao Kai. Then he suddenly recalled it. "Let's not talk about this. Where are the others?" Xiao Chen looked around but did not see Chu Chaoyun, Yuan Zhen, or the others. There was no aura at all. Indeed, where did these people go? Did they all sink? At the mention of this, Xiao Suo and Hao Kai revealed doubtful expressions. The demon blood vulture turned into a small scarlet bird and landed on Xiao Chen's shoulder. Then, it sent a voice projection. "Master, there seems to be a bewildering barrier here, something like an illusion. If we cannot break it, we will never be able to see the true scene." Xiao Chen entered deep thought as he looked at the indistinct immortal palace in the spiritual fog. He basically agreed with the demon blood vulture's opinion. "How do you know all this?" "I did not sense it." "Hee. My clan has a similar place. The bewildering barrier is naturally formed by the world. There are no signs of formations at all. Unless one is prepared, no matter how high one's cultivation is, one will not be able to sense the bewildering barrier." "Can you bring us through the bewildering barrier?" "How is that difficult?" "It is as simple as returning to myself." The demon blood vulture chuckled and turned into a flash of scarlet light, leading the way. Xiao Chen called out to Hao Kai and Xiao Suo. After some thought, he said, "Follow it." Under the demon blood vulture's lead, the three moved over the mirror-smooth lake surface, which gave off spiritual energy. The three did not dare to lower their heads. The female immortals swimming at the bottom of the lake not only looked the same, but also had their eyes open. As long as one lowered their head, countless pairs of eyes would stare at them. This feeling was bone-chilling. No one dared to look at them for too long. "I broke through." After a while, the demon blood vulture suddenly spoke, and the three's eyes lit up. The ethereal immortal palace hidden in the fog stood before them in its complete form, reflecting the lake. Without the hazy fog, the perfect and flawless ethereal immortal palace lost some of its mystery and allure. However, it gained a bewitching air. It was as beautiful as a bewitching air. Many gazes looked at Xiao Chen and the others, showing shock in their eyes. These gazes belonged to Yan Zongming, Yuan Zhen, Chu Chaoyun, and the others. They had broken through the bewildering barrier long ago. Xiao Chen immediately understood. These people clearly understood the ethereal immortal palace more than he did. These people had made preparations long ago and had supreme treasures for breaking through the bewildering barrier. After all, the super factions had participated in the sealing of the wings of time back then. They would have left behind some information. If the blue dragon bloodline had not gone extinct, Xiao Chen would have obtained similar secrets. Xiao Chen looked around and fixed his gaze on Chu Chaoyun. He also knew about the bewildering barrier. Chu Chaoyun felt somewhat embarrassed. When he saw Xiao Chen's gaze, he turned his head and avoided it. Xiao Chen smiled coldly in his heart. If not for the demon blood vulture, he would continue to be trapped in the bewildering barrier. With just one glance, these people's gazes returned to the ethereal immortal palace. All of them frowned and sighed softly. Hao Kai observed their expressions and roughly understood what was going on. After some thought, he said, "Without the inheritance key, no one can open this ethereal immortal palace. It looks like we made a wasted trip." Looking at the dispirited expressions of Yuan Zhen, Qin Ming, and the others, Xiao Chen guessed that these people must have used some tricks. However, they could not open the ethereal immortal palace. They could only watch helplessly. "Brother Xiao, everyone has already tried. No one can open the ethereal immortal palace. Do you want to try?" Shi, who stood with Ming Xian and Yang Qing in the distance, asked with a faint smile as he looked at Xiao Chen. The others' gazes immediately landed on Xiao Chen again. A bright light flashed in their eyes. This Xiao Chen had done many startling things. He was also one of the people that the sovereign emperors present could not figure out. Perhaps he could open the ethereal immortal palace. Xiao Chen knew that he did not understand the ethereal immortal palace as much as these people. Without the inheritance key, there was no other way to open the ethereal immortal palace. Xiao Chen did not reply to Shi. He just sized up the ethereal immortal palace in a daze. At such a close distance, he was only 10 kilometers from the ethereal immortal palace. Now, he could clearly see every detail of the ethereal immortal palace. The shock and astonishment in his heart became even more exaggerated. This ethereal immortal palace was so perfect that it did not look like it came from a human. It was like a powerful treasure, filled with boundless charm. However, something strange happened just at this moment. The calm lake suddenly started trembling. A terrifying existence was slowly awakening at the bottom of the lake. That strong aura surged out of the water, inspiring despair. The female immortal corpses floating at the bottom of the lake opened and closed their mouths, giving off strange sounds. If one listened carefully, one would hear the words, "Sky Dome Realm. Sky Dome Realm. Sky Dome Realm. Sky Dome Realm." Thousands of celestial voices gathered together. The expressions of the prodigies and outstanding talents on the lake changed drastically, and they all felt anxious and uneasy. In the face of this unknown and strange situation, he wasn't mentally prepared. Boom! The lake trembled even more intensely. Finally, it gave off a loud boom. The female immortal corpses floating at the bottom of the lake leaped out. If this were the immortal epic, this scene would be very alluring, like a fairy coming out of a bath. However, this was a group of flying immortal corpses. Chapter 23-28. Flying Immortal Corpses. The immortal corpses broke out of the calm immortal lake. Plop, plop. Countless female immortal corpses broke out of the water like fish, dancing in the air. These female immortal corpses had agile figures, beautiful faces, and unmatched talent. Their skin was snow-white and gentle like jade. They had all the beauty that women in the world envied. However, they did not have any life. Immediately, immortal corpses filled the air above Immortal Burial Lake, swimming like mermaids. Sky Dome. Sky Dome. Sky Dome. Deep, hoarse voices continuously came from the depths of the lake. The scene before them shocked Xiao Chen, Yan Songming, Qin Ming, and the other outstanding talents. Their minds went blank for a moment. These were once immortal corpses that everyone looked up to, inviolable immortals. The lake water splashed and fell like rain. Everyone was at a loss. Suddenly, the eyes of these female immortal corpses turned scarlet at the same time, exuding overwhelming killing qi. Bush, bush, bush. Without giving Yan Songming and the others time to react, the immortal corpses swam in the air like mermaids and attacked them. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. The attacks of these immortal corpses were incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, 3 immortal corpses charged at Xiao Chen. Their eyes were scarlet as they pounced over like wild beasts. Supreme Dragon Fist. Xiao Chen drove the 10,000 dragons art in his body, and a king's dragon might spread out from his body. A blue dragon image appeared behind him as he raised his hand and punched. Boom! The dragon image flickered as Shao Chun punched with the aura of a prime. The fist light exploded, and dragon might spread out. Shao Chun directly knocked back the 3 immortal corpses. This was much simpler than he expected. Shao Chun easily knocked back the immortal corpses with just 1 punch, which stunned him slightly. However, when he saw the immortal corpses flying over at an even more horrifying speed as if nothing had happened, his expression changed drastically. The Supreme Dragon Fist was the strongest offensive fist technique in the world. Furthermore, Shao Chun drove it with the 10,000 Dragons Art's 3rd layer, which carried the king's blue dragon might. Even a great perfection sovereign emperor would find this punch unbearable. However, these immortal corpses were not damaged at all. Naturally, Shao Chun was shocked and raised his guard. Bang! Bang! Shao Chun continuously sent out the Supreme Dragon Fist. The immortal corpses that surrounded him could not get close at all. Shao Chun also discovered that the attacks of these immortal corpses were completely disorganized. Aside from his incredible speed, he did not know any celestial arts, martial techniques, or magic treasures. He could only rely on his physical body. But that was enough. Before he died, he already had an immortal spirit body. After becoming an immortal corpse, his physical body would only be even more terrifying. Ordinary attacks would not be able to severely injure these immortal corpses, much less kill them. At present, there seemed to be no danger, but as time went on, it would be disastrous. No one would be able to leave this place alive. Not a single one of them would be able to leave. An unsolvable situation. Evidently, the other outstanding talents had also predicted this outcome. Their expressions all changed drastically. Damn it, what's going on with these immortal corpses? Qin Ming used the Emperor Dragon Fist to fight. Although there were no major problems, he gradually found it somewhat taxing. According to the information left behind by the Bushin Palace, the corpses of the immortals were indeed buried under the lake. However, they were all antiques from the previous epoch. They could not be any more dead, so there was no danger at all. If the ethereal immortal palace appeared, at most, one would not be able to enter because one did not have the inheritance key. Shao Chun had never said that he would encounter such a desperate situation. How troublesome! Ming Xian frowned heavily as he watched the wounds on the immortal corpses slowly recover from the Buddhist sect's secret technique. The Buddhist sect's secret technique had a strong counter to corpses like zombies and desolate slaves. However, it did not seem to be as effective this time. Is it because they are all immortal spirit bodies? As Ming Xian blocked the immortal corpses' attacks, he calmly analyzed the situation to see if he could find the immortal corpses' weaknesses. Yuan Zhen, who sat on the lotus platform, held up a light barrier shining with Buddhist light. The immortal corpses continuously attacked the light barrier. Ripples and cracks appeared on the light barrier. Although the cracks were small and unnoticeable, they would break sooner or later. Yuan Zhen considered retreating. In any case, he could not open the ethereal immortal palace, so he might as well leave. The wings of time were crucial to the change of epochs. Naturally, it would be best to obtain them. However, if no one could obtain them, it would not be unacceptable. Yuan Zhen looked up at the sky, where a black hole swallowed up the sun. That was the passageway formed by the 7 keys. However, when Yuan Zhen looked at the densely packed immortal corpses in the air, he shook his head helplessly. Yen Songming, who was skilled in the Death Dao, originally felt happy. He wanted to use the Death Dao's mysteries to control these immortal corpses. If he succeeded, he would immediately be unrivaled in this place. He would no longer have to worry about a threat. However, when he tried, he discovered that the other party could swallow up his Death Dao. Even after Yen Songming's Death Dao invaded the other party's soul, he was so frightened that he no longer dared to try. On the other hand, she showed a rather relaxed expression. The blood dragon in his sage cloak circled him, dancing up and down. Its dragon head roared ferociously, and its scarlet claws moved like lightning. There was practically no need for she to make a move. Scarlet shadows surrounded him, forming an impenetrable defense. Bang! Shao Chun attacked again, sending 3 immortal corpses flying. However, a group of them immediately appeared. Even though Xiao Chen did his best to dodge, several immortal corpses still managed to strike his alloy dragon armor with their palms or claws. Whoosh! Xiao Chen took 3 steps back. The alloy dragon armor absorbed most of the force for him, so his physical body did not suffer much damage. However, when Xiao Chen saw the few clear scratches on the alloy dragon armor, he still sucked in a breath of cold air. Even spirit tools could not leave marks on the alloy dragon armor. Demon Blood Vulture, go and try swallowing one. Xiao Chen had already sensed the horror of this group of immortal corpses. He placed his right hand on the scabbard of the tyrant saber on his back. Master, I can't. This group of women have terrifying death spirit chi on them. I can't swallow them. The demon blood vulture's body trembled, revealing the fear in its heart. To think that even the demon blood vulture, which dares to swallow anything, is afraid. What exactly are the origins of this group of immortal corpses? Whoosh! Suddenly, Xiao Chen's entire body froze. His pores opened up as a terrifying gaze stared at him. The thing that Xiao Chen feared the most happened. The terrifying existence at the bottom of the lake, which kept shouting for the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, finally targeted Xiao Chen. All this while, Xiao Chen did not want to associate this voice with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Xiao Chen had just arrived at this strange place when the words, Immortal Burial Lake, came out of his mouth for no reason. This made him feel that something was wrong. Then, the group of immortal flying corpses cried out in unison. This deepened Xiao Chen's suspicions. He kept his guard up, hoping that it was just a coincidence. However, it looked like Xiao Chen was overthinking. The terrifying existence at the bottom of the lake came for him. The group of immortal flying corpses also appeared because of him. Oh no! Feeling that the monster at the bottom of the lake was about to attack, Xiao Chen let go and switched to his saber, preparing to take out Heavenly Slayer. However, before Xiao Chen could let go, the horrifying existence at the bottom of the lake pulled him down. With a splash, he dove into the bottom of the lake. Big brother! Xiao Sua's expression changed dramatically. He waved the Scarlet Blood War banner in his hand and sent it flying, sending the immortal corpses flying. Without even thinking, Xiao Sua prepared to jump down after Xiao Chen. I can't. Just as Xiao Sua was about to sink to the bottom of the lake, Hao Kai fished him up. Hao Kai demanded angrily, Are you crazy? The surface of this immortal burial lake is the line of life and death. Life at the surface and death at the bottom. It does not matter if you are a sovereign emperor or a faux god. Even immortals cannot avoid it. But big brother got pulled down. Xiao Sua appeared somewhat flustered, his voice trembling as he spoke. The sudden change immediately attracted the attention of several people. To think that Xiao Chen slipped up and got pulled down to the bottom of the lake by the immortal corpses. This was too strange. Some of Xiao Chen's enemies were present. However, they did not feel happy in their hearts. Even they could hold on. Given Xiao Chen's strength, how did he get pulled down to the bottom of the lake? Qin Ming showed a stunned expression, feeling somewhat flabbergasted. They had heard of the legend of Immortal Burial Lake before. Life at the surface and death at the bottom. Life and death were separated by a thin line. Once one crossed that line, even an immortal would die. Strange. The more they thought about it, the stranger it became. Panic and fear stirred in their hearts. When people faced the unknown, they would always feel fear. However, the attacks of the immortal corpses did not stop because of Xiao Chen's strange sinking into the lake. The danger that this group faced had not been resolved yet. They might end up like Xiao Chen at any moment. Just as everyone felt worried, confused, and horrified, a melodious sound suddenly came from the ethereal immortal palace. Suddenly, a crisp sound came from the ethereal immortal palace. This sound was like the most beautiful music in the world. In an instant, everyone's gazes were attracted to him. They saw someone push open the doors of the ethereal immortal palace, which everyone had used countless means but could not open. We finally came out. Lin Feng, who was covered in wounds, showed a relaxed expression as he carried the half-dead Jiang He on his back and appeared at the ethereal immortal palace's doors. The scene of flying immortal corpses, which looked like 10,000 demons dancing around, stunned Lin Feng. The instant Lin Feng's hand touched Jiang He, he was transported to a dangerous land filled with ancient era's immortal birds and great desolate Aeon ferocious beasts. Lin Feng, who could barely handle the situation in the first place, had to take care of Jiang He. One could easily imagine how miserable he was. However, this dangerous land was like a maze. He could not find the exit. When Lin Feng finally found the exit after much difficulty, he saw the immortal corpses, Yan Songming, and the other outstanding talents in sorry states surrounded. Despair involuntarily welled up in the depths of Lin Feng's heart. The doors are open. Before Lin Feng could react, the eyes of the people fighting the immortal corpses blazed with a frenzied flame. They instantly brought out their various Dao domains. Then, the group charged towards the ethereal immortal palace's entrance at an incredible speed without any regard for their lives. Chapter 23-29. At the entrance of the ethereal immortal palace, Lin Yun cursed and quickly dodged when he saw the crowd charging over. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yuan Zhen rode on his lotus platform, bathing in a Buddhist light as he led the charge in. Before entering, Yuan Zhen glanced at Lin Feng. After hesitating for half a second, Yuan Zhen directly charged in, ignoring Lin Feng. Indeed, Lin Feng and Jiang He suddenly appeared in the ethereal immortal palace and pushed open the doors while everyone was in despair. No matter how one looked at it, this was extremely strange. Naturally, it would be for the best if one could capture these two calmly. However, even if one delayed, it did not mean that others would be delayed. If one delayed, one would lose the initiative. One wrong step and lose everything. Following that, the Silver Dragon King, Wen Renyu, and the others charged into the ethereal immortal palace. Some glanced at Lin Feng, and some ignored him. The doors were already open. Nothing was more important than charging into the ethereal immortal palace. However, some people did not want to let Lin Feng and Jiang He off. Whoosh, whoosh. Xi's group of 3 blocked Lin Feng and the unconscious Jiang He, showing malicious intent in their eyes. However, Xi attacked without saying a word. The scarlet dragon images circling around Xiao Chen roared ferociously at Lin Feng at lightning speed. The scarlet dragon image carried the horrifying demonic might of a dynasty as it charged over in Lin Feng's eyes. In Lin Feng's vision, this scarlet dragon image was vast and boundless, exuding an overwhelming aura. Lin Feng, who had already fought a bitter battle in the ethereal immortal palace, showed a troubled expression when he faced this attack. Even if he could receive it, he would definitely be severely injured. At that time, he would be captured. Naturally, the best choice was to give up on Jiang He and leave alone. Just as Lin Feng felt troubled, a figure shielded him and swung his sword without hesitation. Everlasting primal chaos. The scarlet dragon image clashed with the sword light and quickly sliced it in half. How strong! Lin Feng felt startled. The person in front of him actually broke the scarlet dragon image with one sword strike. The two halves of the scarlet dragon image returned to Xi's side and reformed. Xi, don't be so ruthless, Chu Chaoyun said as he looked at Xi's group of 3. Xi smiled faintly and said indifferently, don't you want to know how he entered the ethereal immortal palace? Chu Chaoyun said expressionlessly, I'm more concerned about whether you can catch up to the others if you continue to delay. Xi's expression suddenly turned gloomy when he finished speaking. If it weren't for Chu Chaoyun's interference, he wouldn't have needed to waste so much time. With his strength, it wouldn't have taken much effort at all. I let you escape last time, but you're getting bolder and bolder. Murderous intent accumulated in Xi's eyes, and his expression flickered, making him unfathomable. Although you are strong, I have never truly feared you. No one here understands you better than I do. Chu Chaoyun remained calm and collected. He did not show the slightest bit of fear in the face of the other party's threat. Right at this moment, 2 figures flew over. It was Xiao Suo and Hao Kai. Brother Chu, do you need help? Xiao Su'a asked softly as she held the Scarlet Blood War banner and landed beside Chu Chaoyun. Let's go. Upon seeing Xiao Su'a and Hao Kai arrive, she withdrew his aura and left decisively. As everyone watched the three leave, they heaved a sigh of relief. Xi's strength was too unfathomable. No one could lower their guard against him. Chu Chaoyun glanced at the many immortal corpses surrounding them. He frowned and said, "Let's go to the ethereal immortal palace first. These immortal corpses don't seem to dare to enter. We can't go in. The ancient immortal beasts and great desolate Aeon ferocious beasts are even more horrifying." When Lin Feng heard that they were about to enter the ethereal immortal palace again, he immediately recalled the horrifying experience from before. No matter how horrifying it is, it won't be as horrifying as this place. Let's go in first, Hao Kai said with lingering fear as he looked at the immortal corpses. The group ascended the ethereal immortal palace's entrance. Indeed, the immortal corpses that chased after them did not advance any further. "I'm going in. Do you want to come with me?" Chu Chaoyun asked as he looked at Xiao Su'a and Hao Kai. He definitely had to fight for the wings of time and could not remain here. "There's no need." Xiao Su'a shook his head and said resolutely, "We have to wait here for Brother Xiao Chen." "Very well, you can stay here then. However, I want to take this person away." Chu Chaoyun's gaze fell on Jiang He. His expression did not change, but his words shocked everyone. He wanted to take Jiang He away. "You are indeed not a good person," Xiao Su'a said with a cold gaze as his figure flashed, shielding Jiang He and Lin Feng. Chu Chaoyun had a deep gaze as he said after some thought, "He is the crux of the wings of time. I have to take him away. However, I guarantee that I will not harm his life." "Do you think that I will let you take him away?" Xiao Su'a showed a cold smile as he looked at Chu Chaoyun with murderous intent in his eyes. "That is not up to you." Right after Xiao Su'a spoke, Chu Chaoyun's figure turned blurry. The space where he was turned chaotic, making it impossible for anyone to catch him. "Where is he?" Hao Kai and Xiao Su'a charged forward. However, they could not find Chu Chaoyun at all, greatly startling them. A beam of light flashed, and Chu Chaoyun carried the unconscious Jiang He as he dashed past the two. "Damn it! After him!" The three of them cursed and rushed forward. Chu Chaoyun, who moved with the wind, looked back at the cloud-like figure in front. A golden light flickered in Chu Chaoyun's eyes, and golden flames surged out, forming a sea of fire that blocked the three. "It's the universe origin true flame." Hao Kai sucked in a breath of cold air. He stretched out his hands and blocked Xiao Su'a and Lin Feng. "Why are you stopping? That fellow is already far away." Xiao Su'a raged. While he looked crude and rash as he walked on the sea, he had a forthright and righteous nature. In Xiao Su'a's heart, righteousness always took precedence. He would never forget the kindness of others. Xiao Chen gave him everything he had. Without Xiao Chen, Xiao Su'a would not have obtained the Scarlet Blood Pirate King's inheritance or reached his current height. That Xiao Chen was Xiao Su'a's benefactor. Hence, Xiao Su'a was willing to do anything for Xiao Chen without hesitation. Such a person hated betrayal the most. He could not even tolerate a sesame-sized stain. If Xiao Su'a could, he would have killed Chu Chaoyun right now. He had come over to help Chu Chaoyun deal with Xi in vain. In the end, it turned out that this fellow was a liar, no different from Xi. Lin Feng's gaze turned grave as he looked at the blazing golden flame. Fear flashed in his eyes. This is the universe origin true flame that surpasses rank 9. It already comes in contact with the universe origin true flame's origin. If we charge over rashly, we will die a miserable death. Hao Kai said after some thought, "Unexpectedly, there is such a strong person hidden beside us. He is not much weaker than Xi. However, I have a way to deal with this flame. Fight fire with fire." Boom! A resplendent flame blazed around Hao Kai's body. The solar true flame blazed fiercely. Hao Kai wanted to use his solar true flame to burn away all of Chu Chaoyun's universe origin true flame. Although the other party's flame was stronger than Hao Kai's, Chu Chaoyun was already far away. If Hao Kai continued to use his soul energy to control the solar true flame, He would eventually be able to burn away the sea of fire before him. However, it would take some time. After shaking off Xiao Sua's group, Chu Chaoyun continued running without stopping. Everywhere Xiao Sua passed were the corpses of ancient immortal beasts and great desolate Ian ferocious beasts. Yuan Zhen, the Silver Dragon King, and the others, who led the way, must have brought out all their trump cards. The dirty blood had dyed the beautiful jade-like palace walls and the ground bright red. However, the strange thing was that as the blood seeped into the jade, the glow of the palace walls and floor became even brighter. Chu Chaoyun did not go far before he stopped with a slight frown. Then, a person walked out from a corner in front, smiling at Chu Chaoyun. This was the Shuowu dynasty Shi. A strange look flashed in Chu Chaoyun's eyes. After some thought, he said, "It looks like you guessed it as well. The so-called inheritance key is Jianghe himself." She smiled faintly and said, "I can only say that the previous generation heaven dragon's means are indeed brilliant. Normally, Jianghe is Jianghe. When the heaven dragon brings out his mysteries, he will activate the inheritance key hidden in his body, bringing out the ethereal immortal palace." "What are you trying to do?" Chu Chaoyun asked, not saying anything more. "Naturally, I am trying to extract the inheritance key from his body. Don't you want to? You have a deep understanding of me. How can I not guess your background?" Actually, I should have appeared at the banquet and waited for you to kill him to obtain the inheritance key." She narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled playfully. "There's no need to pretend. You and I are the same kind of person. It just so happens that the two of us can work together to break the previous generation heaven dragon's restrictions. After we obtain the inheritance key, we can fight for it with our strength." Chu Chaoyun showed a smile on his face, showing a mocking expression in his eyes. "I never thought of killing him. It looks like you do not understand me. Move aside." Chapter 23:30. It looks like you do not understand me. Get out of my way. Chu Chaoyun did not even consider Shi's suggestion, directly rejecting it. "Are you sure?" Shi's face sank as he said coldly, "This time, I will not give you a chance to escape." Chu Chaoyun retorted indifferently, "Is that so? If the two of us fight at full power, whether you are willing or not, Jianghe will die for sure. If the previous generation heaven dragon dies before the restriction on him is broken, the inheritance key might be destroyed as a result. Are you sure? Given the two's strength, if they fought at full power, they would not be able to control it. He would definitely not be able to control it in the end, and it would definitely affect the unconscious Jianghe. The result went without saying. Are you threatening me? Shi's expression turned extremely sullen. Although he did not want to admit it, what Chu Chaoyun said was indeed very likely. Am I? I am just stating the truth. Or do you really think that we are the same kind of person? Chu Chaoyun revealed a faint smile as he looked at Shi calmly. Shi's gaze was deep. He discovered that he could not see through Chu Chaoyun, not knowing how to describe him. While Shi was said to value relationships, he was not like Xiao Chen, who would unconditionally protect the people important to him. If it were Xiao Chen, he would absolutely not use Jianghe's death to force Shi. While Xiao Chen placed his own interests above all else, he rejected working with Shi, a decision that would maximize his own benefits. Xiao Chen's words were filled with contradictions. Xiao Chen wanted to protect the persistence in his heart but had no choice but to compromise with reality. This was the best portrayal of Xiao Chen. With the epic changing, such a person was the most pitiful. Living like you is really tiring. She revealed a pitiful expression as he said indifferently, I do not need to force you. Whether you are willing or not, time will slowly force you to make a choice. I just need to wait patiently. Right after she spoke, he turned illusory, slowly vanishing from Chu Chaoyun's sight. Chu Chaoyun's smile froze. Then he revealed unprecedented grief, the helplessness of having his disguise seen through. The scene of Xiao Chen drawing his saber after learning the truth in Black Wind Ridge appeared in his mind again. That saber strike destroyed the sinister wind that lingered in Black Wind Ridge for 10,000 years, venting all the dissatisfaction in his heart. That saber strike displayed the determination in Xiao Chen's heart, even if he faced a change in fortuitous encounters. He would also draw his saber without hesitation. No matter how difficult it was, he would press forward and face it head-on. He would never retreat. Withdrawing his thoughts, Chu Chaoyun remained impassive as he continued forward with Jiang He on his back. There were ancient immortal birds and primordial beasts everywhere in the immortal palace. Yuan Zhen and the others, who were searching for the wings of time, did not have a smooth journey. They stumbled along the way. However, these people were either outstanding talents among outstanding talents, demonic geniuses, or peak great perfection sovereign emperors. No matter how strong the ancient immortal birds and primordial beasts were, they could not compare to the immortal corpses outside. The group of people advanced madly, each using their trump cards, continuously advancing into the depths of the immortal palace. Damn it! We can't catch up to him. After Xiao Suo, Lin Feng, and Hao Kai crossed the Sea of Fire, they could not see Chu Chaoyun at all. Lin Feng closed his eyes and did his best to recall something. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, "I know where he is." Xiao Suo and Hao Kai revealed suspicious gazes as they looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said after some thought, "It should be the great hall that Jiang He and I first appeared in. Now that I think about it, that should be the core region of the ethereal immortal palace." However, there were immortal birds and ferocious beasts everywhere at that time. I did not dare to linger, so I charged out with him. Xiao Suo thought for a while before saying, "If you had not left back then, you might have obtained the wings of time already." I did not see the wings of time. At that time, I also did not expect this to be the ethereal immortal palace, Lin Feng answered honestly. At that time, he had been confused, not knowing how he got to this place. Hao Kai said after some thought, "Let's not talk about this for now. Bring us over. Follow me." Along the way, the ground was littered with the corpses of ancient immortal beasts and primordial beasts. The blood hadn't dried yet, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The speed of the three of them was not considered fast. On one hand, Lin Feng needed time to recall. On the other hand, he would occasionally encounter immortal birds and ferocious beasts. Fortunately, Xiao Suo and Hao Kai were around. One had inherited the Scarlet Blood Pirate King's indomitable will, and the other was a great perfection six-vein sovereign emperor. With the three of them working together, there were almost no immortal birds or ferocious beasts that they could not defeat. Just like that, they killed their way over. After an hour, Lin Feng pointed to the exit in front of them and said, "If I remember correctly, it should be the hall in front. Let's go and take a look." They passed through the passageway and entered the hall. In an instant, his eyes lit up. The spacious circular hall had a towering dome, and above the dome was a moving galaxy, sun and moon. The sky was filled with dazzling stars. The floor of the hall was made of pure white immortal jade. It was seamless and emitted a dazzling light like white snow. Suddenly entering such a bright hall, Xiao Suo and the other two were not used to it. "This is the place," Lin Feng said softly as he sized up the hall. Although Lin Feng had been here once before, he had not been able to stay for long before the immortal birds and ferocious beasts surging over from all directions scared him into fleeing. Now that he was here again, he could not help looking around curiously. A vast star chart hung above the core hall. Stars flickered, and the sun and moon shone together, illuminating the entire hall, making it look dreamy. When one entered, one's emotions, physical body, and soul naturally turned ethereal, feeling somewhat unreal. An even more dazzling five-colored divine stone was placed on a stone pillar in the center of the hall. Red, orange, yellow, green, and blue flickered with light, changing endlessly. The interior of the five-colored divine sense was an azure liquid that looked like ripples from space-time fluctuations. Xiao Suo immediately said, "It turns out that the space-time fluctuations we sensed in the outside world came from this five-colored divine sense. Could it be that the wings of time are sealed in there?" Hao Kai showed a grave expression as he thought of a possibility. "That's very possible," Xiao Suo said softly, narrowing his eyes slightly. Lin Feng scanned his surroundings and discovered that there were many passageways in the hall. It wouldn't be long before the others arrived. There were immortal birds and ferocious beasts in the ethereal immortal palace, as well as maze-like winding corridors. If not for Lin Feng having been here once before, he could not have arrived before the others. However, he would not have been much faster. What should we do now? To think that Chu Chaoyun is not here. Xiao Suo glanced at the five-colored divine stone and ignored it. He felt somewhat depressed that he could not find Chu Chaoyun. Let's wait first. Since he is here for the wings of time, he will definitely come. Someone is coming. Hao Kai, who was speaking, frowned slightly. The three quickly raised their guard and retreated to the edge of the hall. A Buddhist light flooded the dreamy hall. It was Yuan Zhen, who had rushed in first, flying in while seated on a lotus platform. Upon closer inspection, Yuan Zhen's lotus platform was stained with blood. Clearly, Yuan Zhen had killed many people along the way before finally reaching this step. The wings of time. The instant Yuan Zhen looked at the five-colored divine stone, he immediately sensed the space-time ripples in it. His expression changed slightly. Yuan Zhen immediately concluded that the wings of time were sealed in the five-colored divine stone. Don't. Just as Yuan Zhen was about to make a move, the Silver Dragon King, Qin Ming, and Sikong Shu rushed in from another passageway, covered in blood. Qin Ming's gaze fell on the five-colored divine stone, and a frenzied flame immediately blazed in his eyes. The wings of time. I finally found it. After so much effort, I finally found it. Qin Ming revealed boundless joy on his face. When he glanced around and saw Yuan Zhen, heavy murderous intent appeared in his eyes. On the lotus platform, Yuan Zhen showed a disdainful smile, his eyes filled with mockery. Before the two sides could fight, Wen Renyu and Dao Yan, Yan Songming and Zhen Yuan, Shi, Ming Xian, and Yang Qing all came out from different passageways. Looking around, nearly all the holders of the ethereal immortal palace keys had charged over with their companions. This was the final place where the wings of time were hidden. Murderous intent gathered in Xiao Suo's eyes as he looked around. However, he did not see Chu Chaoyun's figure. Damn it! Where is this ungrateful fellow hiding? However, Qin Ming, Wen Renyu, and the others showed cautious gazes as they watched the others. At a crucial moment, they might get killed by the others if they were not careful. The wings of time were right before them. Everyone wanted to obtain them. However, there was only one wings of time in the end. No matter who wanted to monopolize it, they would face a situation where everyone would attack them. No one dared to act rashly. The atmosphere slowly turned strange. At some point in time, Qin Ming's group slowly closed the distance between Wen Renyu and Dao Yan. Yan Songming, Zhen Yuan, and she slowly moved closer. Everyone could foresee that a battle of life and death would soon break out. Before life and death, it was human instinct to stick together. Everyone had a tacit understanding. The two sides happened to be the righteous Dao and demonic Dao. The Buddhist sect's Yuan Zhen remained neutral, not leaning on anyone. On the other hand, Xiao Suo's group of three was ignored. They had an inseparable connection to Xiao Qin. Clearly, neither the righteous Dao nor the demonic Dao could tolerate Xiao Qin's existence, which implicated Xiao Suo's group of three. Yuan Zhen, the hidden spirit temple, has always been a righteous Dao sect. Are you trying to take advantage of the situation by not siding with us? Qin Ming asked coldly as he looked at Yuan Zhen on the lotus platform. As Qin Ming spoke, Shi and Yan Songming also looked at Yuan Zhen. Clearly, neither the righteous Dao nor the demonic Dao would allow a strong existence to watch from the sidelines. If Yuan Zhen still did not express his stance, the righteous Dao and demonic Dao might work together to finish him off, not giving him a chance to take advantage of the situation. Facing Qin Ming's overbearing attitude, Yuan Zhen said indifferently, "Buddha is not Buddha, demon is not demon. This humble monk does not want to get involved in the karma of your two factions." The moment Yuan Zhen said that, the righteous Dao and demonic Dao glared at each other. However, just as the righteous Dao and demonic Dao prepared to work together to finish off Yuan Zhen, the five-colored divine stone on the stone pillar suddenly soared into the air. When everyone looked up, they saw a person descend from the starry sky. Jiang He's eyes were tightly shut as he faced the ground. His chest gave off a complicated light as he slowly descended. There seemed to be some kind of restriction in Jiang He's body. As the light spread out, it slowly dissolved. One descended from the sky, and the other soared into the air. Jiang He slowly approached the five-colored divine stone. Everyone showed some confusion on their faces. Only she showed a cold smile. He had long expected that Chu Chaoyun would undo the restriction left by the previous generation Heaven Dragon at the crucial moment. Whether Chu Chaoyun was willing or not, he had to make a decision. It was not up to him. Chapter 23:31. In the starry sky above, Jiang He descended with his eyes closed. The restriction on his chest slowly unraveled. The five-colored divine stone on the stone pillar below seemed to sense it. It soared into the air and slowly merged with Jiang He. If nothing unexpected happened, this five-colored divine stone would soon merge with Jiang He. No one knew what would happen after the merger. Perhaps the five-colored divine stone's seal would be undone. Perhaps the five-colored divine stone would merge with Jiang He and obtain the wings of time. Perhaps Jiang He would die, and the five-element spiritual sense would explode, and the wings of time would appear. Everything was possible, but it was also possible that none of it would happen. A faint smile appeared on Shi's face as he quietly watched the two slowly approach, not moving at all. Yen Songming and Zhen Yuan, who stood beside Shi, showed grave expressions. Damn it! What is this Shi thinking? Even now, they are not doing anything. Wouldn't everything be over if Jiang He managed to get his hands on the wings of time? Yen Songming sent a voice projection to Zhen Yuan, showing the anxiety and conflict in his heart. Zhen Yuan's expression was equally unsightly. He replied, "This fellow must know something that we do not. We cannot let Jiang He merge with the five-element divine stone. Otherwise, we will be too passive." Yen Songming entered deep thought. Then, he turned his head and said, "Lord Shi, this situation is somewhat strange. Are we just going to watch the five-element divine stone merge with Jiang He?" She smiled faintly and said, "Yen Songming, do you want to make a move? I have no objections. This is indeed somewhat strange. It would be good for you to test it out." Seeing Shi smile, Yen Songming felt that this person was unfathomable in the depths of his heart. Yen Songming cursed Shi countless times in his heart. However, Yen Songming had no choice. He could not be as calm as Shi, watching the five-element divine stone merge with Jiang He. If Jiang He really gained control of the wings of time, Yen Songming, as the hope of the Flood Dragon race, would not be able to accept such a result. Damn it! Yen Songming roared as he clenched his teeth. Then he soared into the air and attacked Jiang He. On the other side, another figure leaped up at nearly the same time as Yen Songming. It was Qin Ming, the Dragon God Crown Prince Qin Ming. Like Yen Songming, Qin Ming could not accept that a Heaven Dragon's descendant grasped the wings of time. If that really happened, he would feel even worse than Yen Songming. No matter how strange the situation in front of him was, or if someone was secretly plotting something. But the two of them had no choice. Even if they knew they were trapped, they had no choice but to jump in. Shio. One was a golden divine dragon, and the other was a flood dragon human that had fallen from a mixed blood dragon. Their gazes clashed in midair. Both of them could see the deep-seated hatred and disgust in each other's eyes, but both of them had the same goal and attacked Jiang He at the same time. Touch of Death. 9 Heavens Dragon. The two each executed a killing move. A black flame burned on Yen Songming's body. The flame seemed to be alive, flowing like water. When driven by Yen Songming's Death Dao domain, it was like the Grim Reaper swinging his scythe to harvest life mercilessly at Jiang He. Qin Ming executed the Emperor Dragon Fist to its limits. He clenched his fist and merged with the Golden Emperor Dragon. Boom! The two's killer moves manifested a terrifying momentum that was swift and decisive. Almost before anyone could react, they landed on Jiang He's body at the same time, erupting a shockwave that was a mixture of black and yellow. Shockwaves emanated from Jiang He's body, but something weird happened. Jiang He was unscathed. Not only that, but the restriction on Jiang He's chest seemed to dissolve even faster. Damn it! How can it be like this? Yan Songming and Qin Ming revealed horrified expressions. Even great perfection sovereign emperors could not endure their killing moves. However, Jiang He seemed fine, only stopping Yan Songming's descent. If you want to kill Jiang He, you have to ask for our permission first. Xiao Suo and Hao Kai reacted, but they did not have time to think. They soared into the air and guarded Jiang He, one on the left and one on the right, staring at Qin Ming and Jiang He. You are seeking death. Qin Ming and Yan Songming were enraged, not hiding the murderous intent on their faces at all. The four immediately started a chaotic battle in the air. Under the illumination of the resplendent light, it was incredibly intense. When Lin Feng saw the situation, he wanted to take advantage of the chaos to carry Jiang He away. However, Zhen Yuan blocked him with his saber. Damn it! The two immediately started fighting, turning the battle in the air even more chaotic. Without any warning, the five-colored divine stone below flashed with light and headed for Yuan Zhen, who was on the lotus platform. To think that Yuan Zhen wanted to take advantage of the chaos to take away the five-colored divine stone. Damn Baldy! Stay here. Wen Renyu and Dao Yan surrounded Yuan Zhen. Xi's expression changed slightly. After some thought, he said, We absolutely cannot let Yuan Zhen bring the five-colored divine stone out of this place. Ming Xian and Yang Qing's figures flashed as they worked with Wen Renyu and Dao Yan to surround Yuan Zhen. The core region of the ethereal immortal palace immediately turned chaotic. The various factions fought each other in a chaotic mess. Amid the chaotic battle, all the attacks that landed on Jiang He's body made the restriction on his heart melt even faster. When she saw this, a smile widened on his face. He looked meaningfully at the starry sky in the sky. The Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu, who were staring at Xi, felt that something was wrong. However, they did not know what was wrong. At the same time, at the bottom of Immortal Burial Lake, the instant Xiao Chen was pulled into the lake, he found himself unable to move. He could not circulate his divine energy or soul energy. He could only watch as his life force slowly flowed away at the bottom of the lake. Life and death hung by a thread. Life on the surface, death below. A chill invaded Xiao Chen's entire body, making him feel like death was slowly approaching. However, he remained calm in the depths of his heart, not showing any fear of death. Slowly, all the light in the lake vanished. Only darkness remained at the bottom of the lake, cold and silent. Boundless loneliness and desolation surged like the tide, stirring restlessly in Xiao Chen's heart. Xiao Chen felt somewhat confused. He did not know where this boundless loneliness that lasted for tens of thousands of years came from. After some time, when this loneliness filled Xiao Chen's heart, a beam of light suddenly appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared in front of him, and he saw a beautiful figure. She was so beautiful that she could topple cities with a single glance. She was so beautiful that she could topple cities with a single glance. She was swimming toward him quickly. How fast? However, Xiao Chen's first reaction was not that she was beautiful but that she was very fast. The beautiful figure moved like light, arriving before Xiao Chen in the blink of an eye and cupping his face. She gently kissed him. This kiss penetrated his heart. Then, the beautiful figure entered his soul pool in the blink of an eye. This was clearly his soul pool. However, Xiao Chen felt like he had become a bystander. That beautiful figure floated into his soul pool. Her red lips parted as she muttered, "Sky Dome, Sky Dome, Sky Dome." The voice of the Sky Dome reverberated continuously in his soul pool, causing Xiao Chen's soul energy to surge like waves. She showed an anxious expression, a flustered look in her eyes. She seemed to be searching for something as she continuously ran through the vast and boundless soul pool. Xiao Chen felt shocked, somewhat surprised that his soul pool was actually so vast. There were many remote places that his mind had never been to. As the beautiful figure ran, Xiao Chen saw many things that he had never seen before. This broadened his horizons. What is she searching for? Could there be a secret that even I do not know hidden in my soul pool? Xiao Chen felt curious. He had seen his previous life in the three-life mirror. He knew that he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's reincarnation. However, he did not know much about the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. He only knew that although the Sky Dome Immortal Lord was an immortal lord, he was much stronger than Xiao Chen's ancestor, the top immortal lord of the immortal epic. That is. Suddenly, huge waves stirred in Xiao Chen's heart. To think that there was a grave in the boundless depths of his soul pool. When the beautiful figure saw the grave, she could no longer suppress her emotions. She fell to the ground and caressed the wordless stone steel, tears flowing endlessly. Without a doubt, this beautiful figure was definitely the immortal epic's Shi Wangmu. However, why was she crying endlessly before this grave? Many doubts appeared in Xiao Chen's heart. Many questions lingered in his heart. Xiao Chen thought back to the scene he saw in the three-life mirror, the meeting between the Sky Dome Immortal Lord and the Qing Emperor before his death. This filled him with doubts and fear. Who was buried in this grave? Chapter 23:32. However, just as Xiao Chen prepared to stand up and fight again, he suddenly discovered that Shi Wangmu, who was standing on the grave mound, was looking at the sky with some despair. You must have many questions and questions in your heart. Just ask. Back then, when he created this immortal burial lake for me, he said that he would appear before me one day. He left this remnant soul of mine to wait for you to appear. It was easy to change a person's appearance. However, it was hard to duplicate a person's aura. Xiao Chen revealed a self-mocking smile. Then, he said helplessly, if everything in life is fixed and arranged, I would just be someone else's shadow. What is the point of knowing these questions and secrets? There is no point, there is really no point. Xiao Chen slammed his palm on the ground and leaped up like a fish. Then he looked at Shi Wangmu, who was on the grave mound. The scene that Xiao Chen saw in the three-life mirror had already explained everything. From the moment he swallowed that immortal pill, he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, the reincarnation of the Blue Dragon bloodline. In the end, he still had to face the Sky Dome Immortal Lord head-on. However, his mental state was extraordinary. Normally, he could maintain a good balance. Or rather, he had already merged with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord perfectly. Shi Wangmu's expression changed slightly. How much suffering and responsibility did this youth before her endure in his short life? The two fought endlessly. Shi Wangmu used her supreme immortal skills to fight against Xiao Chen's demonified cultivation technique and martial technique. Shi Wangmu, who was in front of the stone steel, stood up and spoke softly. He once said that he would come. However, what she saw was only a grave. What appeared before her was his reincarnation. You repulsive woman! Scram! I am not some dog's hit Sky Dome Immortal Lord. I am Xiao Chen. I will never be someone else's pawn in my life. Shock flashed on Shi Wangmu's face. Then, Xiao Chen knocked her back and sent her flying. The demonified Xiao Chen on the ground slowly regained his clarity, and the overwhelming demonic flame on his body slowly faded away. I don't want to ask. I don't want to know anything. Please leave my soul pool and send me out of Immortal Burial Lake. I Xiao Chen still have friends. I do not know if they are alive or dead. I am very worried about them. With a blood-curdling screech, the demonized Xiao Chen was severely injured. It was as if he didn't want to hurt him, afraid that he would accidentally kill him. He was a celestial and demonic being, cultivating both immortal and martial arts. Deep in his heart, there had always been a terrifying demonic intent. You have 1,000, 10,000 reasons to become a demon, but you can't become a demon because of him. If you do, I will really look down on you. You must remember, you can be firmament, but firmament will never be Xiao Chen. You have all the possibilities. Is just a pitiful person that no one can protect. Without these, what would he, Xiao Chen, be? He was nothing, not even a fart. Demonic thoughts filled his heart, expanding Xiao Chen's negative emotions infinitely. Shi Wangmu revealed a mocking expression as she said indifferently, he could not even protect himself, turning into a wasteland with only a lone grave left. In the end, it was all for naught. It was pitiful and lamentable. Why do you need to live in this person's shadow? Why do you feel inferior, unable to even protect your heart? Shao Chen could not guess the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's purpose in reincarnating into the martial epic. However, he did not want to know either. I once saw him sweep through the demons. Even when the 8 desolate demonic sovereigns worked together, they could not last more than 100 moves against him. I once saw him ascend the Spirit Mountain alone, not daring to show himself despite the gods and Buddhas filling the sky. I once saw him go to the Kunlun realm and the heavenly court in a rage for a beauty, shattering the clouds. 100,000 heavenly soldiers, 3,000 immortal kings, and 8 immortal ancestors could only watch as he carried the beauty away. Shi Wangmu's words were like a blow to the head, pulling back the disheartened Shao Chen. With all his hopes dashed, the demonic thoughts in the depths of Shao Chen's heart broke free like a wild horse, slowly slipping out of his control. Shi Wangmu's words elicited a bitter smile on Shao Chen's face. What is this? The demonized Shao Chen burst out with startling strength, driving all the soul energy in his soul pool. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable Shao Chen felt. Then, he clutched his chest and knelt on the ground. An uncontrollable obsession raged in Shao Chen's body like a flood. He felt like he was about to lose control of his heart, showing a ferocious and pained expression. Shao Chen felt startled. He did not know what kind of existence this Shi Wangmu was now. Her strength was somewhat incredible. It was like some kind of force had forcefully pulled her out and solidified her in his soul pool. Shao Chen's hatred for the Sky Dome Immortal Lord turned into boundless hatred. He even felt a boundless murderous intent toward Shi Wangmu before him. The tears in Shao Chen's eyes had already dried up, leaving only boundless loneliness and unchanging grief. The demonic thoughts were a ferocious beast, a ferocious tiger in the heart. Once released, even Shao Chen would fear it. Running away was a sign of the weak. There were no openings. The immortal was Shao Chen, the demon was Shao Chen, and the Buddha was Shao Chen. Everything was him. Only his heart did not change. Now, Shao Chen finally understood that he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, a pawn that used the Qing Emperor's karma to reincarnate into the martial epic. In this soul pool, Shao Chen brought out strength that far surpassed his main bodies. Unexpectedly, he forced Shi Wangmu back step by step. Shi Wangmu snorted coldly in her heart. With a flip of her hand, she sent out a god-killing seal. Her gorgeous clothes fluttered, and her long hair fluttered. Her beautiful appearance was like a rose carved from ice, bursting out with a horrifying aura. When Shao Chen discovered this opening, he immediately laughed maniacally. He showed no mercy, launching an even more unbridled attack. If someone had planted a seed of karma in Shao Chen's life long before the martial epic started, he would have died. The demonized Shao Chen had broken the shackles that Shao Chen had placed on himself, standing upright and rushing forward. There was no need to guess what the Qing Emperor's final wish was. It was to bring back the glory and flourishing age of the Blue Dragon bloodline. The person before Shao Chen perfectly overlapped with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord from back then. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord who did not even spare a glance at the immortal ancestor. Come out. Shi Wangmu wore large, gorgeous clothes that looked like thousands of fresh flowers spread out. She knelt before the grave and caressed the wordless stone steel. Back then, the Qing Emperor made a deal with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord successfully reincarnated into the martial epic. However, he also had to inherit the karma of the Blue Dragon bloodline, completing the Qing Emperor's unfulfilled final wish. At first, Shao Chen did not hold much of an advantage. However, he slowly discovered that Shi Wangmu had many concerns. Shao Chen did his best to calm the fluctuations in his heart, doing his best to remain calm. Shi Wangmu calmed her emotions and said after some thought, "I cannot exist for long. If you turn around and leave now, you might never be able to resolve the doubts in your heart. Are you sure you don't want to know anything?" The name of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord shook the 3 realms. Everyone knew him. He was the leader of the 3,000 immortal lords, fully deserving of being the strongest person in the immortal world. However, so what? In the end, he was just a pitiful worm. Before the epic changed, he could not even protect his loved ones, friends, or lovers. That's right. It's me. It's me, the white-robed bladesman Xiaochen. You want to suppress me? It's not that simple. Tell me then. What exactly is the obsession in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's heart? I, Xiaochen, will complete it for him. Not only could the Sky Dome Immortal Lord not resolve the problem, but it also gave the demonic thought an opportunity to push the matter to a situation that he did not want to see. This Xiaochen was insufferably arrogant, becoming increasingly arrogant. Boom. Right after Shi Wangmu spoke, Xiaochen, who was originally just a bystander and could not even control his spiritual sense. Plop. Xiaochen turned berserk. His eyes turned pitch black, and the demonic flames covering his entire body surged into the sky. Right now, Xiaochen's heart was crumbling. He felt that he had lived his life in vain. Even Shi Wangmu felt immense pressure, unable to suppress the demonic thought in his body. Seeing the obsession and persistence in Xiaochen's eyes, Shi Wangmu's body trembled. This is too similar. Seeing the increasingly berserk expression on Xiaochen's face, Shi Wangmu stepped forward and placed her hand on his forehead. At this moment, there was no obsession or resentment in his eyes, only calmness and ease. Bang! Xiaochen's heart and morals, which he had been holding on to until now, were a huge joke. Xiaochen faced the karma that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left behind. He faced the weakness and inferiority complex that he feared being mentioned in the depths of his heart. Shi Wangmu turned around and looked at Xiaochen. She clearly looked at Xiaochen, but she gave off an aloof feeling, a noble and cold arrogance that one could only look up to. But just as Xiaochen was feeling confused, wondering why there was a grave in his soul pool, Shi Wangmu turned around and looked at Xiaochen. When the god-killing seal landed, all of Xiaochen's attacks were easily broken. However, Shi Wangmu's words and this strange grave shook Xiaochen's indomitable heart. Are you afraid? In the end, this is my, Xiaochen's, soul pool. It is not a place for an old and smelly woman like you to be stunned. If you still do not scram, don't blame me for being impolite. Chapter 23:33. Tell me then, what is the obsession in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's heart? I, Xiaochen, will complete it for him. After saying this, Xiaochen knew that the demonic thought in his heart had already vanished. Deep in his heart, he knew everything that had happened when he was demonized. However, the demonic thought was too deep. After demonizing, one's way of thinking would completely change. After demonizing, one would abandon their long-held heart and break the shackles. Their strength would soar by leaps and bounds. However, the increase in strength would only be temporary. The negative emotions would linger for a long time, forming new shackles. In the martial Tao, many experts demonized. Most of them could not break the shackles for a long time. Their obsession was too deep, and they took risks out of desperation, losing to power. While it looked like their strength soared for a short time, in reality, it became a subsidiary of power, falling into the abyss forever. However, it was not that no one in history had entered the Tao through the demonic path. After demonizing, they found another way to control the demonic thought, such as the Buddhist sect's Kasayapa Buddha. In the past, Xiaochen had faced the danger of demonizing many times. However, he managed to keep his heart at the very last moment. However, when he saw the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's grave and learned that he was just a pawn of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, his mental state fluctuated too much. He felt like he was living in someone else's shadow. With all his hopes dashed, the demonic thought found an opening. Fortunately, Shi Wangmu woke him up at the crucial moment. This experience of demonizing gave him a new understanding of his heart, removing the greatest weakness in the depths of his heart. To others, Xiaochen's talent was outstanding. He was calm and collected, even more horrifying than a demonic genius. However, Xiaochen always hid a secret in his heart that no one could tell others. Xiaochen was not a person of this world. He came from the distant earth. Originally, he was just a somewhat introverted shut-in. Sometimes, he doubted all his current glory and strength. Was it just because of that miraculous, immortal pill? Without that immortal pill, Would he not have been able to achieve his current accomplishments, unable to become the white-robed bladesman in the eyes of others? This was the ultimate weakness that troubled Xiao Chen's heart of the martial Tao. He did not even dare to think about it. He had already forgotten about it for a long time. However, just because he didn't think about it didn't mean that it didn't exist. The truth was the truth. Hence, when Xiao Chen saw the grave of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord and heard what Shi Wangmu said, he had such a huge reaction. They would lose all hope and feel inferior. It was like the fear and embarrassment of a person with a dishonorable past who had been exposed in public after succeeding. But now, Xiao Chen had a new understanding of his heart, and the biggest flaw in his mental state had been fixed. "Thank you, Queen Mother," Xiao Chen said sincerely as he looked at Shi Wangmu's grave. She looked like a phoenix that descended from the heavens. If not for the other party, Xiao Chen would still be deceiving himself, not daring to face the karma left by the Sky Dome realm. Shi Wangmu said calmly, "Humans are all like that. Most of the time, it is just that they cannot overcome themselves. Once you get past it, you'll realize that what you're afraid of is actually just that. It's not that scary." "I understand." Xiao Chen performed a cupped fist salute and bowed. His eyes were like limpid autumn water, rippling with faint ripples, looking peaceful and peaceful. He gave off a feeling of tranquility and otherworldliness. It was like he had been reborn. Shi Wangmu looked at Xiao Chen in a daze. Then, she sighed softly and said, "He did indeed have a very deep obsession. I believe that even in death, he would not have forgiven himself." "What obsession?" "He once had the chance to become the new epic master. However, because of his conceit, he failed miserably." "Who did he lose to?" Shi Wangmu shook her head and said, "I don't know. I only know that after that battle, he changed completely." He did not say a word as the epic changed. He sank into despair and helplessness. Given his character, if he lost, he would have ended it with death, not living an ignoble existence. However, not only did he survive, but he even set up a trap, carrying the karma of others to the martial epic. He definitely felt dissatisfied. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. It looked like Shi Wangmu was not clear about the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's trap. Although he did not say it, I can roughly guess that he swept through the three realms. Even the Immortal Epic's epic master was not a match for him. He definitely felt dissatisfied with how he lost in the end. Shi Wangmu voiced her guess based on her understanding of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Xiao Chen thought to himself, Shi Wangmu is a proud person. Shi Wangmu's guess should be close to the mark. Putting this matter aside for now, Xiao Chen asked, "What was the message that he wanted you to bring me?" An item appeared in the Queen Mother's hand. It was a gloomy ball of light. When Xiao Chen looked at the outline of the ball of light, he vaguely felt that it was an extremely ancient talisman script containing some supreme law. It should have once shone with light, writing the laws of the world, containing the Tao and principles that everyone had to abide by. What is this? Although this item was already dim, Xiao Chen could still feel its unfathomable power and strange law energy. This is the epic heart. More accurately, it is the immortal epic heart. Back then, the Immortal Epic's epic master used his supreme might to write the character, immortal. Hence, the immortal epic began, giving birth to thousands of laws and principles. It was the character, immortal, the heart of the immortal epic. The immortal epic started because of it. Shi Wangmu slowly explained the origins of this item, shocking Xiao Chen. To think that the once glorious and vast immortal epic started because of this item. I'm very curious. How exactly did the new epic start? What kind of person truly had the qualifications to establish a new great era? Why was it that after the great era before the great era was destroyed? Why did the immortal epic appear after the end of the previous epic and not some other epic? While Xiao Chen felt shocked in his heart, his doubts also filled his heart. He looked at Shi Wangmu in confusion. Shi Wangmu said after some thought, after the epic is destroyed, everyone can condense a new epic heart. Using one's own understanding to start a new epic, one can spread out in the end, continuously perfecting one's Tao and principles. There will always be only one epic heart. that one will be the true master of the new epic. Xiao Chen revealed an expression of understanding. So, that is the case. Everyone can condense a new epic heart. However, the epic hearts that they condense have their own merits, with some strong and some weak. There will be competition between experts, just like 100 clans contending for supremacy. The victor will rule the new epic. The laws of the world will materialize according to the Tao and principles in that victor's heart. He told me to hand this immortal epic heart to you after I meet you. Shi Wangmu stretched out her hand and gently raised the immortal epic heart. Then, the immortal epic heart slowly flew toward Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen carefully put away the immortal epic heart. However, he could not understand what the Sky Dome Immortal Lord meant. Could it be that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord wanted to restore the immortal epic to its glory and decline? The entire immortal epic's birth, glory, and decline are all within it. In the future, if you want to start a new epic, it should be of help to you. When Shi Wangmu saw Xiao Chen's confused expression, she explained softly. Very well, I'll accept it. Can you send me off? Xiao Chen carefully put away the immortal epic heart. Then he looked at Shi Wangmu. He still worried about Xiao Suo, Hao Kai, and the others. He did not know how they were or what the ethereal immortal palace was like. The commotion caused by this succession race was already uncontrollable. Xiao Chen needed to leave early. If he stayed late, he might miss the crucial moment. Shi Wangmu said indifferently, I'm afraid not. But when Xiao Chen heard this, his expression immediately changed drastically. Right now, his physical body was lacking life force. Right now, the life force of his physical body was slowly fading. If he still did not leave, he might die here. Shi Wangmu gently drifted down and landed beside Xiao Chen. Then she walked forward. As Xiao Chen watched Shi Wangmu leave, he hesitated for a moment before following. Shi Wangmu revealed a reminiscing expression on her face. She muttered to herself, I did not want my physical body to be destroyed when the epic changed. I did not want to end up like the other immortals, dying for no reason, growing old and wrinkled, living like an old woman. So, there was this immortal burial lake? I would rather die at the bottom of the lake, as long as my appearance remains and my physical body remains immortal. When Xiao Chen heard that, he felt somewhat sorrowful. It was hard to imagine that a beautiful person like Shi Wangmu would have a wrinkled face and grow old. Indeed. So, I begged him to create an immortal burial lake for me. When I learned that the epic changing could not be avoided, I jumped in without hesitation. Shi Wangmu revealed a gentle smile on her face. She said, He told me to leave a strand of my soul intact. He said that he would come back again. At that time, if I can get out, it will be a fortuitous encounter. If I cannot, he will stay behind and accompany me, dying at the bottom of the lake with me. As Xiao Chen looked at the smile on Shi Wangmu's face, he felt some pity in his heart. At this moment, the other party was not the aloof Shi Wangmu, who looked like a model of phoenixes. She was just a passionate young girl. Back then, when she jumped into Immortal Burial Lake, she definitely had such a smile on her face. However, because of a promise, she left with a smile from the bottom of her heart and jumped into Immortal Burial Lake without hesitation. However, in the end, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord still lied to her. He did not come. The one who came was Xiao Chen. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord was left with only a lonely grave. Hence, Shi Wangmu sat before the grave, crying endlessly. She had waited for many years. However, all she got was a grave and the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's lie. As the saying went, getting out is a fortuitous encounter. That was the fortuitous encounter left for Xiao Chen. If Shi Wangmu could not get out, the one who stayed behind to accompany her would be Xiao Chen. From the start to the end, it was not the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Chapter 23:34. Shi Wangmu's words sounded like she was talking to herself. However, in reality, she also answered the doubts in Xiao Chen's heart. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord had left the fortuitous encounter at Immortal Burial Lake for Xiao Chen. If Xiao Chen could comprehend it, he could obtain this fortuitous encounter. If he could not, He would stay behind and become a living corpse to accompany Shi Wangmu. Not wanting to waste time, Xiaochen asked, "Senior, do you know what the mysteries of this immortal burial lake's fortuitous encounter are?" If Xiaochen could find some clues, it should be easier to comprehend it. Shi Wangmu said softly, "Life above the lake and death below the lake. Life and death hang on a thin line. However, to me, life can only be found below the lake. There is only death above the lake. The epic changes, life and death, life and death. Life and death, life and death?" Xiao Chen's eyes lit up as he suddenly understood. It turned out that Shi Wangmu already knew what the fortuitous encounter the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left here was. "What will happen to you after I leave?" However, Shi Wangmu felt dispirited, like she was seeking death. Xiao Chen felt very nervous as he looked at Shi Wangmu's back. "Me? I have been waiting for a person for so many years. That person has arrived." Xiao Chen added, "I want to ask, if I obtain the fortuitous encounter at Immortal Burial Lake, what will you do? Why are you so confident? It is still uncertain whether you can walk out of this Immortal Burial Lake." Shi Wangmu smiled faintly as she turned to look at Xiao Chen. "You already told me earlier that the fortuitous encounter at Immortal Burial Lake is that so?" Shi Wangmu interrupted Xiao Chen, showing a smile that did not seem like a smile, unfathomable. Xiao Chen did not know whether it was a tacit agreement or a denial. Right after Shi Wangmu spoke, her figure started to drift away. Her expression was neither joyful nor sorrowful as she said, "The fortuitous encounter is right before you. Grasp it properly." Boom. As Shi Wangmu's figure vanished, Xiao Chen's consciousness came out of his soul pool and returned to reality. In reality, it was not as relaxing as it was in the soul pool. Immortal Burial Lake was like a boundless abyss. Xiao Chen's physical body continued to sink at the bottom of the dark water. His life force slowly faded. Even worse, he could not use his soul energy or divine energy. Death crept closer and closer, but he could only watch it happen slowly. There was no doubt that it was more despairing than fear. However, this time, Xiao Chen was no longer as flustered as he was at the beginning. He opened his eyes in the dark lake. Her clear eyes shone with a gaze that was even cleaner than the lake water, tranquil and peaceful. The Queen Mother of the West once said, "Live on the surface of the lake, die under the lake." The changing of eras, life and death, his words ended here. It seemed like he didn't say anything, but he had already pointed it out. Epics changed, life and death and life and death. Only the cycle of reincarnation would never end. The opportunity in the Immortal Burial Lake was the essence of the change of epics, the reincarnation Great Tao. The Queen Mother of the West had actually seen through it long ago. However, she did not say it out loud because she was waiting for someone. That person was not Firmament, but Xiao Chen. She would rather use a lie to deceive herself for the rest of her life, pretending that she did not see through it, pretending that she was still waiting for someone. This was because that person was her most beloved, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Whether you love me or not, whether you lie to me or not, at the very least, in your heart, I was once a person worth trusting. As the epics changed, how many people did not have a choice? How many people did not mean what they said? How many people cheated and lied? I am already satisfied with your trust. I would rather be misunderstood by you, jumping into Immortal Burial Lake so that my beauty would not be ruined. However, in Queen Mother's heart, from the start to the end, she was only guarding this lake for you. As Xiao Chen expected, the state of cycle circulated smoothly. As the state of cycle slowly circulated, Xiao Chen stopped sinking. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and focused on circulating the state of cycle. The scattered life force returned to his physical body 100 times, 1,000 times faster. A black and white halo appeared behind Xiao Chen, looking like life and death circulating. Mysterious phenomena immediately appeared in the lake, and all sorts of scenes appeared. A figure roamed the great 1,000 realms, searching for treasures of heaven and earth. Even 100,000-year-old immortal herbs were condensed into a drop of dew. This was the dew materialized by the boundless supreme treasures of the world. Many a little makes a mickle. From a depression, to a clear spring, to a circle of water, and finally to the lake in front of them. It turned out that before the immortal epic ended, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord gathered all the supreme treasures of the world to form this immortal burial lake. After that, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord used the different attributes of these supreme treasures to derive the cycle Great Tao. Finally, it created the terrifying immortal burial lake. Life above the lake, death below the lake. This sentence looked simple, but it already involved the power of laws, close to creating a world. At this moment, after Xiao Chen circulated the state of cycle, he activated the backup plan that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left behind. Xiao Chen's physical body was like the mouth of a deep abyss, frantically devouring the entire immortal burial lake's water. If someone else were here, they would be shocked to discover that the entire immortal burial lake's water level dropped at a visible rate. In merely a few breaths, Xiao Chen absorbed half of the entire immortal burial lake. After about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen stood in the middle of the lake, his upper body already exposed. The lake water had already dropped to his knees. The black and white ring of light behind him had already turned into a black and white ink world. Boom! When not a single drop of lake water remained, Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes. A spiritual light surged in his clear eyes. At this moment, Xiao Chen's state of cycle finally formed a great Tao. The fortuitous encounter that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left behind for Xiao Chen surpassed his imagination. Not to mention the cycle Great Tao that Xiao Chen could freely drive from now on, this lake water formed by countless supreme treasures from the immortal epic would bring him unimaginable benefits. With a thought, Xiao Chen was shocked to discover that his cultivation had already broken through to 3-vein Sovereign Emperor. With a thought, Xiao Chen was shocked to discover that his cultivation had already broken through to 3-vein Sovereign Emperor. At some point in time, he had formed a 4th divine vein in his body, breaking through to small perfection and advancing to great perfection Sovereign Emperor. However, this divine vein seemed somewhat special, different from the other 3 divine veins. Bang! Just as Xiao Chen was about to check it out, loud sounds came from the surroundings. The immortal corpses filling the air suddenly shattered. A strong wind picked up their bones and scattered them into ashes. After Xiao Chen absorbed the immortal burial lake, the originally unkillable immortal corpses turned into ashes. Xiao Chen's heart suddenly tightened, and anxiety appeared on his face. When he looked up, he saw a person standing in the air in front, looking like she would go with the wind. She was a peerless beauty, a beauty that could topple nations. She was as beautiful as an ice lotus, looking very noble. Shi Wangmu. The joy in Xiao Chen's heart scattered. He felt empty as he frantically ran toward Shi Wangmu. Shi Wangmu seemed to hear Xiao Chen's call. Then, she looked back and smiled as she stretched out her hand. This smile was like a sovereign descending on the world in the spring breeze. However, this smile was very lonely, making one's heart ache like needles pricking one's heart. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground with his feet and soared into the air. It looked like he was about to touch that jade-white finger. Shi Wangmu's entire body shattered and went with the wind. She was like a short-lived epiphyllum, a smile that could topple nations. Then she fell and went with the wind. Xiao Chen landed dispiritedly. He closed his eyes and remained silent, unable to speak for a long time. The ancient sages were all lonely. The 10,000 years of mundane affairs were all for naught. Shi Wangmu was a peerless beauty, like an ice lotus blooming at the peak of the Kunlun realm, attracting thousands of immortals. In the end, she scattered like a flower. Before the epic changed, she was helpless. In the 10,000 years of mundane affairs, how many people, how many things, and how many beautiful dreams all came to naught. Saying that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord was unrivaled in the world was just a liar. The might of the 3 realms could not compare to Shi Wangmu's smile. However, Xiao Chen somewhat envied the Sky Dome Immortal Lord for having a confidant like Shi Wangmu. Xiao Chen felt very jealous. How many women in the world could see through things like her without saying anything? To be able to be like her, indulging in love until death, even if the other party loved someone else. What was love in the world? It was like drinking. One would not leave until one was drunk. Chapter 23:35. The existence of the immortal burial lake abandoned the complicated seven states. Or rather, it advanced directly from the seven states to the life and death Tao, connecting directly to the essence of reincarnation. That was when Jiang He's chest shone with a blinding radiance as blinding as the sun. Boom! Everyone was shocked, and panic appeared on their faces. They found it difficult to control their bodies. Even the Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu, who had been keeping their guard up against Shi, did not expect Shi to be so horrifying. He thought that these people had left after failing to open the immortal palace. This was one of the ultimate grand das. Everything in the world had life and death. After falling to the bottom of the lake, Zhang Xian had no idea what was going on behind him, but from the chaotic situation before him, he had caught a whiff of a scheme. If he still did not make a move, Xiao Su'a and the others would be swallowed by Shi's demonic eye. Right now, Xiao Chen had to focus on keeping an eye on Shi and see what he was up to. A thick blood-colored flame burned in his left eye. The blood-colored flame burned through the barriers of countless worlds in the depths of his eye. His eyes burned out of his eye sockets and lingered under his brows, erupting with a terrifying devouring power. Devouring the heavens, devouring the earth, devouring everything. It was not the pure power of life, nor was it the pure power of death. Instead, it was a brand new power of the great Tao that was created by combining the characteristics of the two. From slaughter to death, it was actually a reincarnation cycle, from life to death, and from death to life. Yuan Zhen sat on the lotus platform, tightly controlling a five-colored divine stone. Xiao Chen fought 1 against 4, Wenren Yu, Dao Yan, Ming Xian, and Yang Qing. After the saber light passed, the originally distorted space and chaotic scene were forcibly returned to normal by the saber. Just as the five-colored divine stone was about to be devoured by the dazzling radiance in front of Jiang He's chest, from a bystander's point of view, he only needed to pay a little attention to discover all sorts of strange things. The five-colored divine stone that Yuan Zhen held tightly to struggled free and flew towards Jiang He's chest. As he stealthily looked over, he could see that those people all had confused expressions on their faces. Xiao Chen soon realized that someone was using Jiang He to set up a trap. He wanted to incite the various factions to fight to remove the restriction that the Heaven Dragon had left in Jiang He's body. Chu Chaoyin. The consequences were unimaginable. Xiao Chen had to pull out the saber. Boom! Xiao Su'a, Hao Kai, and Lin Feng guarded him, fighting Qin Ming and Yen Songming with much difficulty. The wings of time are in the five-colored divine stone in Yuan Zhen's hand. No one could avoid it. The so-called reincarnation power was essentially the power produced by the reincarnation cycle of life and death. Even though the immortal palace had disintegrated, these people did not stop. After a moment of shock, they continued to fight. In the past, he had condensed the reincarnation intent from the intent of slaughter, despair, and death. The others who were struggling in the demonic eye whirlpool were repelled by the devouring power and sent flying. With a single glance, Zhang Xian recognized that this was the inheritance key that everyone yearned for but could not find. No! Xiao Chen, if there is a next life, I only hope that you don't become infatuated. Just be yourself and be a peerless beauty. Why has the lake dried up? Just at this moment, the misty immortal palace in the sky started to shake. A crisp sound rang out. The resplendent light in front of Jiang He's chest gathered into a key covered in talisman scripts and shot out. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and caught a pure white piece of jade. He could clearly sense the pure spiritual energy contained in it. Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's visit, the wings of time that everyone expected did not appear. Only 8 words floated quietly in the air. Demonic eye swallowing the heavens. Damn it, what's going on? Just like how one would not return until they were drunk, Xiao Chen's figure flashed. Before the immortal palace completely disintegrated, he withdrew his aura and hid. Hidden in the dark, Xiao Chen frowned heavily, feeling very confused. The Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu also noticed the dried lake water. Zhen Yuan's eyes turned pitch black. A black dragon image slowly swam in each of his eyes. Xiao Chen felt somewhat heavy. As he looked at the empty sky after Shi Huangmu left, his heart also felt empty. If Shi Huangmu had been talking about Shi Huangmu, perhaps he would have added that he would not return until he was drunk. The inheritance key easily broke the five-colored divine stone. The newly formed divine vein was completely different from the previous three divine veins. It was even clearer and purer. Aside from driving his divine energy and soul energy, it was also for driving his cycle Great Tao. The Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu, the two experienced Great Perfection Sovereign Emperors, did not participate in the battle. Instead, they kept staring at the mysterious and unfathomable Shi. The two agreed that Shi, who had not made a move yet, definitely knew some secrets. This thought immediately flashed in Shi's mind. Never mind, the restriction is about to be undone. I'll go and check it out after I obtain the wings of time. Xiao Chen stopped thinking and looked up. He saw cracks appearing in the ethereal palace that was as perfect as a beautiful piece of jade. Qin Ming and Yan Zongming attacked ruthlessly, showing no mercy. They wanted to chase away the three and kill Jiang He. Shi, Chu Chaoyun, Yuan Zhen, and Zhen Yuan were in a tense stalemate. Saber lights knocked them into the air, causing them to vomit blood. However, what Xiao Chen did not understand the most was this saber light. This slash seemed extremely ordinary, yet everywhere it passed, it swept through everything in its path, and all phenomena collapsed and were easily crushed. As long as Xiao Chen kept an eye on Shi, he would not have to worry about not gaining anything. Xiao Chen frowned heavily as his thoughts raced at lightning speed. Chu Chaoyun's figure turned blurry, turning chaotic. He gently pushed off with his feet, trying to confuse space and break free. Given the ethereal immortal palace's noble and magnificent appearance, only Shi Huangmu in the immortal epoch could possess such a powerful treasure. That was very likely the case. Otherwise, there was no other explanation for the ethereal immortal palace's coincidental appearance at Immortal Burial Lake. Pu Si. Suddenly, Xiao Chen thought of a name. Shock filled his face as he gaped. The ethereal immortal palace completely disintegrated, and a river of stars flowed continuously in the sky. Countless stars flickered in the sky. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in space, and a blurry figure seemed to emerge from the primal chaos. Could the ethereal immortal palace's disintegration have something to do with Immortal Burial Lake's drying up? Only 3 people could barely stabilize themselves in the whirlpool. Crack! This was especially so for Chu Chaoyun, Yuan Zhen, and Zhen Yuan. As they struggled, they did their best to prevent Shi's demonic eye from swallowing up the inheritance key and the 5-colored divine stone. Without any warning, she appeared above Jiang He and landed a palm strike on his back. However, just at this moment, Shi, who had been strolling leisurely with his hands behind his back, suddenly made a move. Shi Huangmu just left, and something happened to the ethereal immortal palace. Could it be that the ethereal immortal palace was Shi Huangmu's temporary residence when she was alive? Chu Chaoyun. Earlier, Xiao Chen had been wondering who was using Jiang He to lay a trap. Then, he was shocked to discover that Chu Chaoyun was not around. He clearly sensed that the potential of Immortal Burial Lake had not been exhausted yet. Naturally, the 5-colored divine stone that Yuan Zhen grasped could not escape Xiao Chen's notice. The space-time ripples coming from it would be hard not to notice. After a while, Xiao Chen perked up and checked the changes in his body. She stood in the air and looked at the deep pit left by Immortal Burial Lake. He showed some confusion in his eyes. Someone is laying a trap. On the other side, a Buddhist light shone, and Buddhist chanting rang out endlessly. Yuan Zhen pressed his palms together and chanted endlessly. The colossal figure of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva materialized behind him. Jiang He. After grasping the cycle Great Tao, Xiao Chen gained many comprehensions, many things that he did not understand when he was still in the state of cycle. Seeing Chu Chaoyun appear, rage immediately appeared on Xiao Sua's face. He ferociously swung the Scarlet Blood War banner and charged at Chu Chaoyun. Everyone saw Xiao Chen use the inheritance key to open the 5-colored divine stone without hesitation. Immediately, some people cried out in dissatisfaction. Clearly, The ethereal immortal palace's sudden disintegration caught these people off guard. The three of them, along with she, fought in four directions. The others felt the world spin around them, their bodies spinning in a whirlpool. No matter what Xiao Chen thought, the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated at a visible rate. The peerless unpolished jades emitted a celestial spiritual light as they rained down in all directions. After indulging in love, they would not return until they were drunk. Even if they were drunk, they would not return. The main reason was that she was too strange, and his strength was unfathomable. The two did not dare to confidently defeat him. One of them stepped aside to check. If she suddenly attacked, they might not be able to stop him. But immediately, everyone thought of a possibility. What was love in the world? However, the gazes of the others were no longer on Chu Chaoyun. Instead, they were focused on the golden key. They saw Jiang He floating in the air with his eyes closed, unconscious. Light continuously poured out of Jiang He's chest as the restrictions in his body rapidly dissolved. The shock waves from the battle of the various sides, be it demonic chi divine energy or spiritual energy divine energy, silently entered Jiang He's body after a series of ripples. Then, they sped up the removal of the restrictions in Jiang He's body. Tears of blood continuously dripped from Shi's eyes. Clearly, it was very taxing for him to fight so many outstanding talents alone. The onlooker sees more clearly than the person involved. The five-colored divine stone instantly melted, and the resplendent space-time power rippled like lake water. The Silver Dragon King, Sikong Shu, Wenren Yu, the other outstanding talents, and the older generation sovereign emperors all felt their breathing turn rushed. When the various outstanding talents on the ground saw Xiao Chen walk out while brandishing his saber, they revealed horrified expressions. The palace shook continuously, showing signs of breaking apart. This startled Xiao Chen. The four sides fought in secret, not daring to relax. The scene in this area turned blurry, and space twisted. Xiao Chen's left eye was like a bottomless hole. Everything in the surroundings flew into his left eye uncontrollably. The chaotic battle continued. As the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated, it became even more chaotic. After Xiao Chen consumed the entire immortal burial lake, he easily broke through to small perfection sovereign emperor and advanced to four vein sovereign emperor. However, the two did not do anything. Pu Si. The sound of intense fighting rang out, along with all sorts of familiar shouts. Who would have thought that all of them would enter the immortal palace without a single one missing? Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and slowly walked forward from the darkness. Then he stretched out his hand and collected the inheritance key and the five-colored divine stone. However, these were not what shocked Xiao Chen. What shocked Xiao Chen was that as the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated, the inheritance key appeared. The inheritance key. Because Xiao Chen's physical body could not endure it, he stored the potential of Immortal Burial Lake's boundless natural treasures, waiting to be developed. As the four sides wrestled, a saber light carrying the power of reincarnation swept out. One could face death and live to death. One could cycle endlessly, producing the power to tear time and space. Life to death, death to life to life. As long as the world existed, the cycle would not end. The person who arrived was Chu Chaoyun, who had been lying in wait for a long time. Chu Chaoyun saw Shi, who wore the scarlet dragon robes, standing upright with his hands clasped behind his back. It seemed like the battle before him had nothing to do with him. What surprised Shi was that although the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated, every piece of white jade seemed to be connected. Chapter 23:36. Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun came here. There was nothing. When Xiao Qin used the inheritance key to open the seal on the five-colored divine stone, he did not get the wings of time that everyone expected. Instead, he got a sentence that rendered everyone speechless. Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun came here? Even though Xiao Qin had always been calm, he was stunned speechless when he saw these words. He was completely stupefied. He was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? Everyone schemed, set up, and used all sorts of trump cards, fighting to the death. In the end, All they got was empty words, Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's merciless mockery. She, who was even more incredulous than Xiao Chen, remained unperturbed, believing that his plan was flawless. Xi's mind went blank as he muttered to himself, "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. If Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun took away the wings of time, he would definitely hide it in the demonic Dao Hall. If it were in the demonic Dao Hall, I would definitely know where exactly went wrong." Chu Chaoyun remained silent, showing a complicated expression as he looked at the 8 words in the air. It was like he saw Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun mocking the Holy Lord. A person who died 50,000 years ago toyed with the powerhouses of the various factions. Although there were no faux gods here, in reality, those who could reach this step had the support of a super faction. By standing here, they represented not only themselves but also the terrifying factions behind them. What the heck is going on? Qin Ming bit his lip, confusion filling his face. His father clearly swore that the wings of time were hidden in the ethereal immortal palace. However, why was there nothing after the inheritance key opened the seal? There's no need to think about it. Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun must have taken away the wings of time. We were all fooled by him, Sikong Shu said with a sullen expression, sounding extremely upset. No one would feel good if they were fooled by a dead man. Crack, crack. Just at this moment, cracks appeared at the edges of this space, spreading out like a spiderweb. When everyone looked up, the space-time tunnel formed by the 7 ethereal immortal palace keys was shrinking continuously. Oh no! This space-time secret realm is going to shatter. Instantly, everyone started to panic. They were in the middle of a space-time gap. As a mystic realm, it had always been extremely stable. But now, strange things kept happening. First, the misty immortal palace had exploded, and the celestial burial lake had disappeared for no reason. Now, the 5-colored divine stone had also been opened. The important pillar that maintained the space-time mystic realm might no longer exist. If they couldn't get out before the secret realm broke, they might be lost in the space-time reversal forever. We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go. The immortal palace was gone, the immortal burial lake was gone, and now the wings of time were also gone. Even the mystic area was about to be destroyed. If he stayed here any longer, he would definitely die. He had to leave even if he didn't want to. Zhen Yuan and Yan Congming stood side by side, appearing somewhat confused. Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun came here? What if it came here? Yan Congming said somewhat hatefully, feeling very depressed. Zhen Yuan said indifferently, "It is still acceptable. Let's go. The outcome of the Crown Prince battle should be out soon." However, the outcome of the Crown Prince battle doesn't seem to have much meaning. Zhen Yuan paused for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "That's true. This was decided from the very start. Let's go. Our original plan will not change." So. Many figures immediately flashed, flying towards the space-time tunnel in the sky. No matter how dissatisfied they were, being fooled was being fooled. They had to leave. When Ming Xian and Yang Qing arrived beside Xi, they clearly discovered that something was wrong with Xi's condition. Xi's left eye looked like a hole, not daring to look at it directly. His complexion was pale, and he kept muttering to himself. Ming Xian frowned slightly and said, "Lord Xi, we should go. If we still don't, this place will crumble." Xi covered his left eye and slowly stood up. Then he looked at Xiao Chen, who was taking care of Jiang He. It seemed like she was wondering if the other party's expression was fake or not. "Ming Xian, do you think that Xiao Chen obtained the wings of time in advance? He mysteriously came back to life in immortal burial lake. Even I could not understand that final saber strike." Rumble. As she spoke, the space-time secret realm slowly shook, and the cracks widened. Ming Xian said after some thought, perhaps he had some other fortuitous encounter, but the wings of time should not be in his hands. Otherwise, if he had the wings of time, we would not be able to survive. He would have finished us all off. At that time, when the epic changed, he would not have a single opponent. She remained silent. In his heart, he also leaned toward Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun taking the wings of time. However, it was strange. If Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun had the wings of time, why did he not use it when he fought the Holy Lord back then? There had to be something fishy about this. Let's go. After looking at the crumbling secret realm, she no longer hesitated. After some thought, he said, "Let's leave first. Our plan is not over yet." Before leaving, she gave Xiao Chen a deep look, revealing a complicated look in his right eye. Soon, aside from Xiao Chen, Xiao Suo, Hao Kai, and Lin Feng, who were guarding Jiang He and the others, only Chu Chaoyun remained in this secret realm. Chu Chaoyun wanted to go over from a distance, but he saw Xiao Suo's murderous expression. Chu Chaoyun shook his head and sighed softly before leaving through the space-time tunnel. "Big brother, can he still be saved?" Xiao Suo asked somewhat anxiously. The secret realm looked like it was about to collapse, but Xiao Chen did not show any intention of leaving. It was hard not to feel anxious and worried. However, Xiao Chen remained unmoved, appearing like he did not hear Xiao Suo's words. He entered deep thought. Jiang He's condition was extremely strange. All signs of life were present. However, his divine seal was dim, and his soul showed no fluctuations. He was like a living corpse. After a while, Xiao Chen's gaze landed on his right hand. The inheritance key in his palm flickered with a faint light. Could it be? The thought occurred to Xiao Chen as he looked at Jiang He. Then, he looked at the inheritance key in his hand. Could it be that this inheritance key already merged with Jiang He's soul? I can only gamble. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and slapped the inheritance key back into Jiang He's chest. Boom! In the next moment, Jiang He's chest burst out with resplendent light. The beautiful ethereal immortal palace jades in the sky turned into beams of rainbow light and entered Jiang He's chest. The wandering starry river in the sky and the surrounding stars all followed. Soon, a brand new ethereal immortal palace materialized in Jiang He's chest and merged into his body. This, Xiao Suo, Lin Feng, and the others gaped at this scene incredulously. After Jiang He absorbed the entire ethereal immortal palace, his entire body gave off a crystalline, faint light. Like a peerless piece of jade, her entire body, from the inside to the outside, was undergoing a complete transformation. Understanding appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes as he understood some things. This ethereal immortal palace did not have the wings of time. The previous generation Heaven Dragon was very clear about this. He must have discovered some of Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's secrets in the Blue Dragon's old land. The Heaven Dragon had left the inheritance key in Jiang He's body to give him a great fortuitous encounter. All of this was Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's plot. After learning about Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's plot, the previous generation Heaven Dragon went with the flow and left this fortuitous encounter for Jiang He. Since the Heaven Dragon had the wings of time 50,000 years ago, why did he not use it against the Holy Lord? Xiao Chen could only personally ask the previous generation Heaven Dragon for the answer. Otherwise, he could only seek the answer in the Blue Dragon's old land. It's over. It's going to collapse. Xiao Suo said in some despair as he looked at the edges of the collapsing space. This secret realm was already in tatters. Don't panic. Xiao Chen slung Jiang He over his shoulder and said, "Come with me." He drove the cycle Great Dao, and Xiao Chen gently pushed off with his feet. Then he used the power of cycles to reconnect the shattered space. After Xiao Chen left, space immediately shattered. Wherever he passed, the space behind him would collapse. He relied on the forceful pull of the reincarnation power. Then, Xiao Chen led the four into the air, forcibly stepping out of the passageway just as it was about to close. Lin Feng and the others, who followed behind Xiao Chen, felt incredibly mystical. They suddenly discovered that Xiao Chen seemed to have undergone a drastic change compared to before he sank to the bottom of the lake. Xiao Chen now gave off an indescribable calmness. His eyes were clear and pure, and he gave off a faint otherworldly aura. Previously, this feeling was not obvious. Now it was very clear. The succession race will end soon, Xiao Chen said softly. After exiting the passageway, the group returned to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Xiao Chen looked at the peak of the ancient Yan Emperor tree. Chapter 2337. At the peak of the ancient Yan Emperor tree, the 9th Prince Wang Yan was currently fighting an intense battle with the 4th Prince Wang Yun. However, the situation did not look good. The Yan Imperial sword that Wang Yun refined was the 9th altar. 9 was the limit, containing a vast amount of dragon essence. The other princes, on the other hand, had long since lost the right to participate in the battle for the position of crown prince. They could only watch from the ancient tree. The 8th Prince Wang Feng and the 13th Prince had unwilling expressions on their faces. They were the most popular princes after the 1st Prince. Who would have thought that after the death of the 1st Prince, someone would truly ascend to the top of the ancient Yan Huang tree? They were the 2 brothers whom he looked down on the most. This was especially so for the 4th Prince Wang Yun. He had always been treated like a fool, a complete joke. No one thought that he would be able to pass the first round of the test. But who knew that this fool would turn the tables and stand at the top of the ancient Yan Huang tree? This was the final battle with the 9th Prince Wang Yan. Based on the situation, Xiao Chen was suppressing Wang Yan all the way, holding a great advantage. Even though Wang Yan's grasp of the massacre Great Dao was far more exquisite than the other party's Buddhist Dao might, Wang Yan's massacre Great Dao was not as exquisite as the other parties. In terms of martial strength, the 4th Prince could not compare to the battle-hardened and experienced Wang Yan. However, there was nothing he could do. The 9th altar contained too much dragon essence. The might of Wang Yun's Yan Imperial sword far surpassed Wang Yan's. Wang Yan used force to break technique. He did not need to use too many exquisite killing moves or martial techniques. He could suppress Wang Yan with just the sword in his hand. 9th brother, you still haven't given up? Wang Yun held his Yan Imperial sword at the top of the ancient tree, stuck in the vast clouds. The body of the sword overflowed with Buddhist light, and the Buddhist light behind him shone even brighter. It was as if a sky full of Buddhas had appeared, chanting Buddhist mantras incessantly, and the might of one sword seemed to be able to flatten mountains and rivers. Wang Yan's eyes filled with murderous intent. However, his aura was completely drowned out by the other party's vast sovereign might. It seemed as if he was surrounded by a powerful army, and his entire body was filled with killing intent as he fought bravely while bathed in blood. Unfortunately, there was no end to the killing. Even when they were exhausted, they were still unable to break out of the encirclement. It looks like Wang Yan's defeat is only a matter of time. Xiao Sua looked into the distance and sighed softly as he watched the battle at the top of the ancient Yan Huang tree. Hao Kai also shook his head slightly. Although the few of them had not interacted with Wang Yan for long, they still admired his character. Seeing that the prince whom he had been escorting was about to lose to someone else, he couldn't help but feel indignant. Xiao Chen's expression was calm, and his emotions did not fluctuate. Along the way, he had done his best to protect Wang Yan. Now, in this final battle, he could only rely on himself. Regardless of the outcome, he only hoped that he would not have any regrets. He could tell that Wang Yan's martial Dao foundation far surpassed the 4th Prince, Wang Yun. After all, he had been stationed at the borders all year round and was always at the forefront. Wang Yun, who lived in the capital, couldn't be compared to him. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen's aura was completely suppressed. The dragon essence in the Yan Imperial sword could not compare to his opponent's. If he could come to his senses and use the brocade pouch that he had given him, it would be hard to say who would win or lose. However, it did not matter. The 1st Prince had already been killed. No matter who ascended to the position of Crown Prince, Xiao Chen could still reluctantly accept it deep down in his heart. At this moment, Xiao Chen had other worries. The succession race in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb had been full of twists and turns. The situation had developed to this point. It was hard not to worry about why the Imperial Ancestral Temple was protecting Shi and the others. Now, Xiao Chen felt somewhat worried about Ao Jiao, Su Yi, and the others in the depths of the Imperial Palace. Big brother, should we continue watching? Xiao Sua asked as he looked at Xiao Chen. Most of the other prince's guests had already left the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Let's leave this place first. Xiao Chen and the others thought to themselves, give up. Then, they immediately felt a vast, mighty force from the depths of the ground connecting to their physical bodies and souls. The mighty force of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb forcefully sent Xiao Chen and the others out. In the next moment, Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and the scene before him changed drastically. His entire body suddenly felt incredibly relaxed. The pressure of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb no longer existed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The instant Xiao Chen appeared in the Imperial Palace's drill ground, he immediately felt 10-odd strong, suffocating soul energy scanning his body. This startled Xiao Chen. He had once come into contact with a faux god flame and could clearly sense it. Every strand of soul energy contained a faux god flame. This meant that a significant number of faux gods had arrived in the Yanwu dynasty. The soul energy containing a faux god flame left as quickly as it came, lasting less than 1,000th of a second. Those who were slightly weaker would not be able to sense it. Xiao Chen understood. These faux gods were trying to sense if they had the wings of time or not. Xiao Chen immediately felt a chill down his spine, feeling fortunate. Fortunately, the misty immortal palace did not have the wings of time. If he had taken the wings of time and appeared in the Imperial Palace, the misty immortal palace would have been destroyed. If Xiao Chen obtained the wings of time and appeared in the Imperial Palace, he would instantly suffer the attacks of at least 10-odd faux gods. At that time, even if he had the Cycle Great Tao, he would not be able to escape death. However, it was hard to say. With so many faux gods gathered, the Heavenly Alliance's faux gods would be here as well. If the Heavenly Alliance's upper echelon knew that Xiao Chen possessed the wings of time, they would definitely protect him to the death. But no matter what, he would be caught in the center of the dispute, and it would be hard to predict whether he would survive or not. Without batting an eyelid, Xiao Chen handed Jiang He to Xiao Su'a and walked toward Ao Jiao and Su Yi. "Your Highness Goddess, I'm glad I didn't fail you," Hao Kai said respectfully when he saw Ao Jiao. "Thank you, Senior Hao Kai." Ao Jiao quickly returned the greeting and said softly. Then, her beautiful eyes turned and landed on Xiao Chen. She complained, "Why did you work so hard? You don't know how worried we were about you." Indeed, the competition for the crown prince position was full of twists and turns. There were many times when he was on the brink of life and death. He didn't have the time to think about it, but the onlookers were definitely alarmed and worried. "I'm not dead, don't worry." Feeling Ao Jiao's concern, Xiao Chen felt warmth in his heart. Then he stepped forward and pinched Ao Jiao's cheeks. After Shi Wangmu's matter, Xiao Chen understood many things. One should not wait until the people by one's side were no longer around before regretting it. After seeing Ao Jiao, many of the emotions that Xiao Chen suppressed in his heart surged out. Ao Jiao's youthful face immediately blushed. She pulled away from Xiao Chen's hand and asked, "What are you doing? There are so many people watching." "Young Master Xiao, this is our Golden Crow Empire's divine daughter. Don't go overboard," Hao Kai said softly as he coughed a few times. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and looked back. Indeed, several gazes were looking at him. Then, Xiao Chen saw she with a white bandage wrapped around his left eye. He smiled at Xiao Chen in a mocking manner. Yan Songming and Zhen Yuan, who fought to the death with Shi earlier, were together with Shi again. There were also several hostile gazes, such as Qin Ming, who gritted his teeth in anger. Naturally, Xiao Chen ignored all of them. At this moment, the eliminated princes and the many guests on the drill ground all stared at the light screen. Everyone stared at the light screen, watching the peak battle between Wang Yan and Wang Yun. There was destined to be only one victor in this battle, ascending to the crown prince position. However, Xiao Chen had a bad feeling in his heart, regardless of whether he had the wings of time or not. Whether he had the wings of time or not, the Yanwu dynasty gathering so many faux gods was an ominous sign. If he got careless, a battle between faux gods would start. At that time, the consequences would be dire. What worried Xiao Chen more were Shi and Yan Songming. One was the Shuowu dynasty's first prince, the leader of the demonic Tao. The other was the underworld god Hall's outstanding talent, representing the factions of the 9 layers of the abyssal underworld. They were like fire and water with the righteous Tao. Now that the first prince was dead, the two of them, who had lost their protection, still dared to openly remain in the palace. This gave Shao Chen a bad feeling. After some thought, he said, "Everyone, stay closer to me. Something is not quite right." The current calm was like the calm before the storm, making Shao Chen very worried. Shao Chen got Su Yi and the others to stay closer to him. Once there were any changes, he would use the Divine Universe Steel to put everyone in. Su Yi and the others did not suspect anything. After hearing that, they quietly gathered around Shao Chen, surrounding him. Suddenly, Shao Chen thought of something. He asked, "Did you see the Yen Emperor appear?" As long as the Yen Emperor was around, Shao Chen could swing his Yen Imperial sword. Even foe gods would fear him in this Yenwu dynasty. Su Yi frowned and said, "His Majesty, the Yen Emperor, has not appeared since the start." The moment Su Yi said that, Shao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He already had a bad feeling. Just at this moment, the surrounding people started discussing. "The fourth prince is going to win." On the light screen, Wang Yan, who was surrounded at the top of the ancient Yen Emperor tree, could no longer endure getting knocked into the air by Wang Yun's sword. Blood spurted out endlessly, a cruel sight to behold. Chapter 23:38. At the peak of the ancient Yen Emperor tree, at the start of the fight, Wang Yun, who held the upper hand, finally inflicted heavy injuries on Wang Yan, who was bitterly holding on. After being sent flying by a single sword strike, the accumulated injuries all erupted at this moment. Wang Yan, who was sent flying, showed an expression of dissatisfaction. Hey, if this Wang Yun was truly stronger than him, he could still accept his loss wholeheartedly. However, Wang Yun was no match for him. In fact, he was much weaker than him. However, he relied on the vast dragon essence contained in the ninth altar to suppress him in terms of the Emperor's might. He didn't have any room to display his various martial arts. The other party used force to break technique. "I don't care what killing move or martial technique you have. I only need one sword, and the deities and Buddhas in the sky all materialize sovereign might." If Wang Yan could match his opponent's long essence, he was confident that he could defeat his opponent within 3 moves. However, there were no ifs in this world. In terms of unwillingness, the eliminated 8th prince and 13th prince were even more unwilling. "It's a pity. I've already come this far, but I still fell short of success." Wang Yan felt very guilty. He felt that he had let down Shao Chen and the Heavenly Book Scholar, who had supported him through life and death along the way. "I'm sorry to disappoint you." From the very beginning when he faced Wang Yuan, he knew that his chances of winning weren't high, and he had no regrets holding on until now. However, when he thought of Shao Chen and the others, he was filled with guilt. Just as Wang Yan closed his eyes in despair, he suddenly recalled that Shao Chen had given him a brocade pouch in Black Wind Ridge. Wang Yan, who was about to open it, was stopped by Shao Chen, telling him not to open it unless absolutely necessary. With this thought, Wang Yan opened his eyes. Just as he was about to descend to the top of the ancient tree, Wang Yan opened his eyes. With a tap of his foot, he stabbed his sword into the crown of the tree. He knelt down on one knee and stood up once more. A hint of doubt flashed in Wang Yan's eyes. In that instant earlier, he clearly sensed that the other party had lost all fighting spirit. There was no chance of victory at all, so why did he suddenly stop? "Ninth brother, there's no need to struggle anymore. You and I are brothers. I don't want to hurt you too badly, and I don't want to kill you," Wang Yun said calmly. What he said was the truth. Of the many princes, only Wang Yan did not have much resentment or murderous intent. However, if Wang Yan insisted on going his own way, then don't blame me for being ruthless. "You think you've already won? Isn't it?" Wang Yun's lips curled up in a smile filled with mockery. His ninth brother, Wang Yan, is only SOS. Even now, he is still so naive. "I don't think so." Wang Yan's eyes suddenly narrowed, and a sharp look flashed in them. Then he opened the brocade pouch that Shao Chen gave him. Boom! The instant the brocade pouch was opened, a dazzling radiance flowed out in all directions. Wang Yun covered his eyes with his left hand and slowly looked at Luo Kai. He squinted his eyes, and when he looked, his expression changed drastically. It was a heavy jasper with clear ripples on the inside. 9 dragon shadows floated around it. This was a dragon jade with 9 dragon shadows. When this jade appeared, not only was Wang Yun shocked, but the many spectators in the dueling ground were also astonished. In the first round of the test, being able to fill up the dragon jade with 3 dragon shadows was already very impressive. Reaching 5 dragon shadows was already considered heaven-defying. It was unheard of for someone to reach 9 dragon shadows in the past. Damn it! Wang Yun could no longer remain calm. He cursed and charged over while holding his Yen Imperial Sword. Wang Yun wanted to end this battle before Wang Yen absorbed this dragon jade. Xiaochen, you really gave me a pleasant surprise. A smile appeared on Wang Yun's face. The importance of this brocade pouch surpassed his expectations. Wang Yen raised his Yen Imperial Sword to the sky, and 9 dragon shadows immediately gathered. The Yen Imperial Sword in Wang Yun's hand burst out with a light that rivaled the sun. His dynasty's dragon might quickly soared. Wang Yun, who originally held a suppressive advantage, forced back his aura before the resplendent Yen Imperial Sword. Soon, Wang Yan's dynasty's dragon might clashed with Wang Yun's and overtook him. Wang Yun, who was charging over, could only watch helplessly as all this happened. A look of horror flashed in his eyes. Wang Yen roared furiously and soared into the air. His sword light flickered. Sword images containing the massacre Great Tao pierced through the Buddha statues in the sky and destroyed them all. Pusi. Wang Yun vomited a mouthful of blood as the many sword images knocked him to the ground. After losing the advantage in dragon essence, Wang Yun's true level instantly revealed itself. He lost in one move. How can it be like this? Wang Yun felt confused, unable to accept this. Earlier he had been suppressing the other party. By the time their dynasty's dragon might were about the same, he was actually defeated in one move. Cracks appeared in the Yen Imperial Sword in Wang Yun's hand before shattering. Without sufficient accumulations, Wang Yun forcefully occupied the 9th altar. The huge difference after losing in one move caused him to crumble. After losing his Yen Imperial Sword, Wang Yun was forcefully sent out of the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. No one had expected such a dramatic reversal. In the end, the one to truly ascend to the peak and become crown prince was the 9th prince Wang Yen. All the prince's Yen Imperial Swords were gone. Now, only Wang Yan's remained in the entire ancient Yen Emperor tomb. Boom! The dynasty's dragon vein hidden under the ancient Yen Emperor tomb poured into the ancient Yen Emperor tree and merged with Wang Yen, who was at the top. In the next moment, the huge screen in the drill ground shattered, materializing bright light. Wang Yen held his Yen Imperial Sword as he stepped out amid the bright light, appearing before everyone. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. The various feudal lords and noble clans all stood up and performed cupped fist salutes. No matter how the succession race turned out, now that Wang Yen was the crown prince, he would be the next Yen emperor in the future. Wang Yen revealed a smile as he looked around, his heart filled with joy. If you are the crown prince, then what am I? Just at this moment, a discordant voice rang out. Wang Yan's expression changed slightly. Wang Yen looked in the direction of the voice and saw the one-eyed she smiling mockingly at Wang Yen, who had the dynasty's dragon vein. Wang Yan's face sank. I thought that you already left. You are still here even now. You are really bold. The sudden situation startled the feudal lords, the many princes, and the guests at the drill ground. Why should I leave? She countered with a faint smile. Right after she spoke, the Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor walked out of the clouds in the sky above the palace. Then he said coldly, Wang Yen, your guests cruelly killed the first prince. You will not be able to escape punishment. The elders have already decided to strip you of your crown prince position. What? These words were like a bolt from the blue, shocking the various feudal lords and stirring up a huge commotion. Wang Yen said with a sullen expression, I want to see Imperial Father. You are not qualified to strip me of my crown prince position. I'm afraid that's not up to you. She sneered and said indifferently. Hundreds of figures covered in demonic flames rushed out of the vast palace. Without exception, they were all demonic Dao Hall elite sovereign emperors. They surrounded the entire drill ground, filling the air with demonic might, spreading out in all directions. The Yenwu dynasty's palace instantly changed. The imperial ancestral temple's experts, who were supposed to be here, disappeared. The demonic Dao Hall took over the entire palace. The expressions of the various feudal lords and princes changed drastically. At this moment, all the elites of the Yenwu dynasty gathered in the palace. It was like the demonic Dao Hall had surrounded them. In the palace in the clouds, the imprisoned Yen emperor trembled with rage. Would to think that you are so deranged, becoming the demonic Dao Hall's dogs. The imperial ancestral temple's imperial ancestor said expressionlessly, the epoch is changing. If we want to continue the Yenwu dynasty's glory, we need to make a choice. The sudden change in the situation caused everyone to feel somewhat frightened. How did the Yenwu dynasty fall in an instant, occupied by the demonic Dao Hall? How can it be like this? To think that the demonic Dao Hall's people took over the palace just like that? Senior Feng and the Heavenly Book scholar said with uneasy expressions, not understanding what happened. Shaochen looked around and said, that is not all. The Underworld God Hall's people are mixed in as well. This should have been planned long ago. If the first prince had not died, the Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor would have had a trump card to bargain with the other party. Now, he has completely sided with the other party. What should we do? Ao Jiao asked somewhat anxiously. The demonic Dao Hall took over the entire palace. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestors' experts listened to the other party. This was like the dynasty's faction and the demonic Dao Hall's faction working together to surround them. There was no way out. Give me the sword. She climbed onto the drill ground and walked towards Wang Yan, demanding the Yen imperial sword that symbolized the dynasty's inheritance. Chapter 2339. The entire palace immediately burst into a huge commotion. Mu Zifeng and Swenji both felt startled, flabbergasted. Wang Yan's lips curled up in a cold smile. After some thought, he said, "You two are really my good brothers. Let me tell you this. Unless I die today, I will not give you the Yen imperial sword in my hand." During the succession race, she wielded the demonic imperial sword and prepared to swallow up the dynasty's dragon vein. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's elders, who managed the ancient Yen Emperor tomb, already turned a blind eye to it, not doing anything. Before the Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor finished speaking, Pan Huang mercilessly attacked, sending him flying with a slap from a distance. Shaochen, are you going to save the 9th prince? Indeed. Shaochen thought to himself. It was more or less as he guessed. That's right. Father is still in their hands. Even if you don't want to kill us, are you going to kill Father as well? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The smile on Shi's face faded, replaced by a murderous intent. Just as she pressed forward, the 13th Prince Wang Yi said indifferently. If not for something unexpected happening that even she could not control, Yuan Zhen and Wang Yan would have counterattacked. Several dozen figures rushed over from the dark. Without exception, they were all experts of the Imperial Ancestral Temple. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Everyone looked up and saw the peak of Spirit Vulture Mountain outside the imperial capital. The golden body of the Kasayapa Buddha released a resplendent light, materializing a Buddhist nation behind him. However, the situation was far from that simple. Hence, no matter what, they could not let down their guard. They had to protect the people around them. After some thought, Mu Zifeng said, "That's right. Wang Fei is the representative of the Imperial Ancestral Temple, the Demonic Dao Hall, and the Underworld God Hall. If he did not die, he would not have pushed Qi to the front. He would not have let these foe gods do so either. However, a war between foe gods is just a matter of time. The Hidden Spirit Temple will not just sit and wait for death. Under the control of the Imperial Ancestral Temple's elders, The Yenwu dynasty submitted to the demonic Dao Hall. Did they become prisoners? Swearenji said softly, "Little girl, the Yenwu dynasty is now filled with the faux gods of the various superfactions. No matter how bold the demonic Dao Hall and the underworld god Hall are, they would not dare to offend all of them. People like the dragon god Crown Prince Qin Ming and the profound heaven holy son Wenren were also taken away by the faux gods of the various factions. The imperial ancestral temple's imperial ancestor, an 8-vein sovereign emperor, could not even last one exchange with Pan Huang." Ao Jiao asked as he looked at Xiao Qin. "The world out from the Xiao into the Buddha Light Mountain." Suddenly, the boundless golden light disappeared, and a dark Buddhist light, accompanied by the strange and indifferent face of the Gautama Buddha, shrouded in front of the world. Xiao Qian's heart was as clear as a mirror. He said, "Don't worry. There will be someone who will not let him die. I just need to take care of you." Pan Huang chuckled, looking down on everyone, not taking these four seriously at all. "Qin. Qin Feng say, Qin Qinkama Shan." "Spirit," Mu said. Ji said Ji, Mu, Emperor, Qin, Mu. "This is the 9th Yen Emperor? He's still alive?" It looked like a faux god battle was about to start. The Yenwu dynasty would always be at the foot of the Spirit Mountain. "No need. You teach me." The imperial ancestral temple's imperial ancestor appeared again in the palace in the clouds. He said calmly, "Princes and feudal lords, there is no need to be nervous. After Lord Shi becomes the new Yen Emperor, everyone will continue as before. Your titles and lands will not change. The martial epic is about to collapse, and the new epic is about to crumble. Lord Shi promised us even greater glory." The imperial palace had always been bathed in the Buddha's light, and it had never changed. Just at this moment, the golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha that everyone looked up to suddenly spun on Spirit Vulture Mountain. His gaze landed on Wang Yan from thousands of kilometers away. At the same time, he began to think about how his family and the interests under his name would change if this was true. What's going on? However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. A beam of golden Buddhist light pierced through the dark clouds and enveloped Wang Yan. Then, the golden Buddhist light quickly expanded. In a moment, it cleared away all the demonic clouds in the sky. So, scram to the side. It was the hidden spirit temple's abbot Su Yi. On the left and right were the spring snow bladesman Pan Huang and sword god Su Hanshan. Swearenji looked coldly at Mu Zifeng. Then, he waved his long sleeves and turned into a beam of dark light that pulled in Xiao Qian and the others. Swearenji glanced over and said indifferently, "Brat, be more respectful when you speak. I was the one who made a move earlier to fish you out." This completely cut off Wang Yan's thoughts of fleeing with his sword. The golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha frantically switched between good and evil. The golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha began to switch between righteous and evil. Xiao Qian could not help saying, "Lord Mu?" When the ordinary people inside and outside Yen City saw such a miracle, they all knelt and prayed. When Xiao Qian saw such a miracle, they all knelt and prayed. Xiao Qian asked as he looked at Mu Zifeng. The hundreds of demonic Dao sovereign emperors in the surroundings showed cold gazes as they silently circulated their demonic essence. They drove overwhelming demonic qi, and surging black clouds instantly covered the sky above the imperial palace. Whoosh! Boo! This rather dramatic scene seemed absurd and inconceivable. It seemed to be unexpected, but also beyond reason. Just as the Yenwu dynasty was in a precarious situation, on the verge of leaning toward the demonic Dao Hall, this superfaction, which had been hiding its strength and not made a move for many years, finally revealed its fangs. Shi's words had the meaning behind them. Even if everyone in the world wanted to side with the demonic Dao Hall, Wang Yan would absolutely not do so. In that case, since all of you are here, why did you not help the hidden spirit temple? Hao Kai could not help asking. Ao Jiao asked, "Then how did you enter the imperial palace? The people of the demonic hall didn't attack you?" Below the martial arts practice field, many princes were shocked, and they were slightly dazed and unable to stand steadily. TSK, there are really a lot of old farts. Who else is there? Stop hiding. The four of you are not enough for me to beat you up. Bang. Right now, she had probably already swallowed the dynasty's dragon vein. The consequences would be even worse than now. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's Imperial Ancestor showed a grave expression as he flew forward. Then he said, "Senior Abbot, my royal clan is currently dealing with internal matters. Please leave. The Hidden Spirit Temple no longer has any connection to my Yenwu dynasty." Could it be? Wang Yan, who was on the martial arts practice field, felt the chill in his heart. His expression turned extremely unsightly. This was just his nature. Wang Yan's expression turned sullen, and his hand, which held the Yen Imperial sword, trembled endlessly. He looked at Shi and asked, "Is my father still alive?" "Take out the sword." A thought occurred to Xiao Qin. He looked at Mu Zifeng and asked, "Is it because I killed the first Prince Wang Fei?" Xiao Qin knew that he had to leave. With a thought, he prepared to take out the Divine Universe Steel. This did not surprise Xiao Qin. When he looked back, he frowned heavily. He still felt somewhat worried about Pan Huang. The Imperial Ancestral Temple not only did not stop the demonic Dao Hall's sovereign emperor expert from taking over the Imperial Palace, but it even colluded with him. Even Xiao Qin, Hao Kai, and the others all looked at Mu Zifeng in confusion. Even though some people were dissatisfied with the demonic Dao sovereign emperors and the hidden Imperial Ancestral Temple experts, the Yen Imperial Ancestor was a dynasty that had existed for close to 100,000 years. Even though the Yen Imperial Ancestor normally did not show himself, it did not mean that there were no faux god experts. When Xiao Chen's vision recovered, he only saw a blurry golden light in the imperial capital Yen City when he looked back. What startled Xiao Chen even more was that the person traveling with him was his old rival, Swearenji. This enveloped the entire imperial palace in a somber and cold atmosphere, suppressing everyone. Xi's lips curled up in mockery. "Are you sure that I will attack you?" "Won't." She smiled faintly and said, "Naturally you will live. However, if you do not cooperate, it will be hard to say whether you will live or not. Don't even think about resisting. The Imperial Ancestral Temple already came to an agreement with my demonic Dao Hall. The Flame Dragon formation in the Imperial Palace will not be activated." Clang. Since the demonic Dao Hall was confident of making a move under the Hidden Spirit Temple's nose, they definitely had something up their sleeves. 3 old men followed behind this white-haired old man. All the faux god experts of the royal court came out in full force. However, Xiao Chen suddenly sensed a strong aura behind him. When he turned around, shock flashed on his face. Xiao Chen knew that the Kasayapa Buddha's golden body had both good and evil sides. However, Xiao Chen had never expected that the other side would appear before the world one day. However, he could still sense that strong faux god aura. Xiao Chen's thoughts raced. He found it strange, but he resisted and did not make a move in the end. Even if Xiao Chen did not become the crown prince today, he would still be the first to step forward in such a situation. A white-haired old man stood on the flame dragon, radiating a faint faux god might. Mu Zifeng smiled and said, "What's wrong? Do you find it strange to see me? Now is not the time to speak. There will be a huge battle between faux gods soon. Swearenji, bring them away first." Wang Yan was not stupid. He quickly figured out what was going on. It was Mu Zifeng. Wang Yan had been rather calm from the start to the end, as he wanted to obtain the Hidden Spirit Temple. No matter what, he would not just sit back and watch the demonic Dao Hall control the Yenwu dynasty. The Yen Emperor had always been under the watch of the Buddhist ancestor, never disappearing. The Hidden Spirit Temple. 3 figures approached from the peak of Spirit Vulture Mountain, appearing in the sky above the Imperial Palace's drill ground. Swearenji, a Heavenly Alliance senior elder, was an incredibly strong faux god expert. "You have backbone, but is it useful?" Just as Xiao Chen felt uncertain, the golden Kasayapa Buddha body turned around again, revealing its benevolent, peaceful, and dignified side. Whoosh! The battle between faux gods is already unavoidable. No matter who wins, the Yenwu dynasty is finished. Unexpectedly, The people that Xiao Chen wanted to kill in the final battle were his own people. Mu Zifeng sighed softly. Then he said in a self-mocking manner, I am overthinking. The epic has changed. There is no longer any distinction between the righteous and demonic factions. The super factions might be eager for both sides to fight. It would be best if both sides ended up severely injured, severely damaging their essence. A terrifying aura burst out from the depths of the imperial palace. 9 flame dragons gathered from different directions. Ninth brother, just give the Yen imperial sword to Lord Shi. Don't be rash alone. Don't get us all killed. Wang Yen drew his sword, and the Yen imperial sword gave off a bright light, radiating the dragon might of a dynasty. A Buddhist light shone, looking very dignified. However, Wang Yen did not dare to say anything. Anyone who dared to step forward would definitely die. Now, Wang Yen finally understood that the demonic Dao Hall's actions had the tacit approval of the royal court's faux gods. The princes who lost the succession race did not want Wang Yen to become the crown prince in the first place. As Wang Yen held the Yen imperial sword, he smiled bitterly as he looked at the sovereign emperor experts in the imperial ancestral temple. When the sovereign emperor experts saw the situation, they started speaking in a strange tone, wanting Shi to hand over the Yen imperial sword. Shi spread his arms and gently drifted back. However, after thinking about it, there were already signs of this happening. The moment she said that, the various feudal lords' anxious hearts eased somewhat. Whoosh! Chapter 2340. After entering the residence, Xiao Chen discovered that the Heavenly Alliance doyens and the group of faux god experts were all there. The Old Alliance chief, Hua Tianyang, and Swearenji were among them as well. They all looked at Xiao Chen. After a while, Xiao Chen figured out what had changed. When Mu Zifeng heard that, he felt slightly stunned. Then he said, "There is no need." Right after Mu Zifeng spoke, the other doyens agreed. In the end, only Swearenji remained silent. "I know you have many questions in your heart. Ask away." Xiao Chen could not help feeling suspicious. If he started a new epic in the future, he would not be able to avoid destruction in the end. 3 days later, the alloy battle armor arrived at the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters. Mu Zifeng asked after some thought, "Fate cannot be defied?" Mu Zifeng frowned. After thinking for a while, he said, "Strictly speaking, the martial epic ended the moment the Black Dragon King broke the World Tree. However, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor suppressed the Black Dragon King back then, not giving him a chance to destroy the world, allowing the martial epic to survive until now." Mu Zifeng explained, "When an epic reaches its end, there will always be an existence like the Black Dragon King, bringing the end and destruction. Only with destruction can there be new life. Only then can the epic cycle never end." "Why?" "Swearenji, do you have any objections?" Light and shadow flickered. Xiao Chen looked into the distance and discovered that aside from the palace, the imperial capital Yen City had turned into rubble. Su Yi muttered to herself as she looked at the imperial capital Yen City, still showing disbelief in her eyes. Mu Zifeng thought for a while before saying softly, "Actually, you should address me as Alliance Chief Mu now. Let's go. This place is no longer safe. Let's return to the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters first." "Why?" "See, let's go." In the earlier exchange of faux gods, thousands or even tens of thousands of years of effort turned to dust, leaving nothing behind. It could be opened for cultivation only after obtaining the approval of all the doyens and faux god experts. The instant the Kasayapa Buddha's golden body shattered, 2 figures flew out of the Yenwu dynasty's vast territory. Mu Zifeng mocked, "There is no need to care. Who would listen to him now? Does he think that he is still the epic master? Go to the void god realm and die with him? I'm here to ask for your agreement to open the 9 Heavens Origin Gathering Formation so that Xiao Chen can enter it to cultivate in seclusion." After Mu Zifeng sat down, he looked at Xiao Chen and smiled softly. The group boarded the alloy warship, all of them silent. My Beauty's Smile Pavilion. The change of epics and the collapse of order were just the beginning. Nine Heavens Origin Gathering Formation. Xiao Chen was slightly shocked. He only calmed down after a while. You're the chief of the Heaven Alliance now? Mu Zifeng stood up and looked at Xiao Chen, wanting to speak to him alone. Even without the Heavenly Alliance's resources, after absorbing the entire Immortal Burial Lake and the Blue Dragon's treasure trove, he did not need many resources. As the two spoke, the horrifying battle between foe gods had already begun. It was broken. Mu Zifeng waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter. You know very well what kind of person I am. To put it nicely, we are helping each other. To put it bluntly, we are using each other. However, it does not matter. You and I are of use to each other. So, this relationship is unbreakable." After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen voiced his doubts. Xiao Chen felt worried. At the same time, he understood that after order collapsed, the foe gods would feel fear. When foe gods panicked, no matter how cruel the scene was, no matter how strong the power was, there was no order to maintain it. There were boundless benefits for a divine vein realm sovereign emperor to cultivate on this mountain. Originally, Xiao Chen planned to deal with this matter after he became the Dragon Emperor. However, he had no choice but to say it now. Xiao Chen had found it strange long ago. These two were sworn enemies. Why did they suddenly appear at the same time? Previously, Swearin Ji's attitude toward Mu Zifeng had been overbearing, like fire and water. Mu Zifeng asked with a frown. "Xiao Chen, come with me for a while." "All right. Let's put it this way. The Heavenly Alliance will invest all its resources on you to help you ascend to the Dragon Emperor position. However, there is one thing. If you succeed in starting a new epic, you need to benefit the Heavenly Alliance. I need you to make an oath with your soul." Xiao Chen mocked. "This is really interesting. Without anyone knowing, I helped you become the Heavenly Alliance's alliance chief." Upon seeing Xiao Chen agree, joy appeared on Mu Zifeng's face. This was especially so when Xiao Chen mentioned Mu Zifeng's name in the oath. Xiao Chen asked, feeling confused. He had been thinking of resealing the other party's Black Dragon King after he became the Dragon Emperor. Previously, Xiao Chen did not have a high status, so he could only cultivate at the waist of the mountain. As Xiao Chen said, Mu Zifeng had always been a person who prioritized his own benefits. It was just that he would hide it in the past. Now, he did not hide his desire at all, being direct. "I'll give you 15 minutes to consider. I'm in no rush." Mu Zifeng and Swearin Ji both felt greatly startled, clearly extremely shocked. Now that order had collapsed, there was no way to restrain foe gods. It was hard to find a truly safe place in the Great Thousand Realms. After Mu Zifeng settled everyone down, he brought Xiao Chen to Heavenly Divine Mountain alone. Mu Zifeng gave Swearin Ji some instructions, and a transcendent alloy warship appeared. Then he called Xiao Chen and the others over. Earlier, when the many foe gods fought, the number of people who died from the shock waves could no longer be counted in 10,000. "Greetings, Alliance Chief. Do you know how the Black Dragon King was sealed back then? The blood-soaked Dragon Emperor exhausted the last of the martial epic's luck before he succeeded. Furthermore, from a certain point of view, the Black Dragon King's appearance was fate. Even without the Black Dragon King, other experts would have appeared and destroyed the martial epic." Mu Zifeng looked around and said calmly, "Xiao Chen already carved the oath on his soul. If he becomes the epic master, he will definitely benefit the Heavenly Alliance. As long as everyone's juniors and clansmen remain in the Heavenly Alliance, they will safely survive the epic change. Of course, that is on the premise that Xiao Chen truly becomes the epic master." When Xiao Chen heard that, he felt slightly stunned. Indeed, he had not expected Mu Zifeng to be so direct. When Xiao Chen heard that, he understood. No wonder these foe gods could only wait for death and still listen to Mu Zifeng's orders. Furthermore, they could obey Mu Zifeng's orders. It turned out that they all had descendants. They all had unresolved concerns and bloodline relatives. What? Xiao Chen did not continue thinking. He chose to agree. Since the Heavenly Alliance was established, the ancient spirit gathering formation had been established. It had been absorbing the spiritual energy essence of Heavenly Divine Mountain's supreme treasures for many years. The battle between foe gods was cruel. The imperial capital Yen City was instantly destroyed. This made Xiaochen feel that it was better to have a safe place. Xiaochen worried about Pan Huang's safety. His strength was limited, so he could only pray for Pan Huang's safety. The other figure towered into the sky, radiating a terrifying state of death. Everywhere it passed, life force extinguished, materializing the image of an underworld deity. "Let's go," one of the doyens said. While Swearenji's words sounded like a question, he was actually threatening Xiaochen. "How did you end up with Swearenji?" The Alliance chief's residence at the summit of the Heavenly Divine Mountain was previously managed by Hua Tianeng. Now it was managed by Mu Zifeng. At that time, with the strength of a foe god, Mu Zifeng would be able to kill the people that Xiaochen cared about. Precisely. Long before the Crown Prince's war, the Alliance head had already decided to choose between me and Swearenji. "Thanks to you, your performance in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb far surpassed Lin Feng's, and I became the new Heavenly Alliance's Alliance chief." "There's no need. I promise you. I swear in Xiaochen's name that if we start a new epoch one day, I will not forget the Heavenly Alliance and Lord Mu Zifeng's kindness, and I will protect them." There seemed to be a boundless force twisting space and confusing the surroundings, preventing others from seeing what was happening. "Alliance Chief, the Holy Lord just sent orders for the leaders and foe god experts of the 5 super factions to head to the foe god world. We will discuss how to deal with the demonic Dao Hall and the underworld God Hall. However, once it started, it would immediately descend into madness, chaos, and doomsday. It could only end when the new epoch started. A figure covered the sky with demonic clouds. Everywhere he passed, demonic clouds covered half of the Yenwu dynasty's territory. What was the meaning of the epoch's existence? Suddenly, Xiaochen said, "Lord Mu, you have changed." These two were the demonic Dao Hall's Hallmaster and the underworld God Hall's Hallmaster, the most horrifying existences among the demonic Dao foe gods. If Xiaochen was not willing to let go of this grudge, there was no need for Mu Zifeng to worry too much. In any case, he would die. Xiaochen continued, "Just like back then, when the immortal Dao collapsed, the cycle of reincarnation was destroyed, and the immortals fell?" Coincidentally, Xiaochen had many questions in his heart that he wanted to ask Mu Zifeng. After leaving some instructions to Ao Jiao, Mo Qin, and the others, he followed behind Mu Zifeng. Mu Zifeng said indifferently, "You should have noticed that practically all the super factions have a spokesperson. They are betting everything, hoping that their faction spokesperson will become the new epic master in the future. Naturally, my Heavenly Alliance cannot continue splitting resources. We have to make a choice between you and Lin Feng." The only thing that Xiaochen could gain was that the Heavenly Alliance would be a great help in the fight for the Dragon Emperor position. When the Black Dragon King reappears, the martial epoch, which is already at its end, will officially come to an end. At that time, all the foe gods who ignited their divine flame and were too deeply connected to the martial epoch will fall. There is no why. Every epoch ends like this. Then, a new epoch emerges. This is fate. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows as he looked at the other party. He discovered that Mu Zifeng seemed to have changed from before. However, he could not see the situation inside clearly. "Come, I'll bring you to the peak of the Divine Mountain." After the epoch ended, it would be like when the immortals fell back then. All the foe gods would not be able to avoid being buried with the martial epoch. "I know where the Black Dragon King's seal is. I can gather foe gods to strengthen the seal." Mu Zifeng narrowed his eyes slightly as he smiled. He has indeed changed. The epoch is changing, and a great calamity is looming. No one knows what the future will be like. Even foe gods feel fear and unease. Since things have reached this point, why do I need to disguise myself? I might as well live freely. No matter who it was, they would not be able to accept it. Heavenly Divine Mountain was a divine mountain formed from the Heavenly Alliance's boundless resources. Mu Zifeng smiled happily and said, "Good. From now on you are one of us. What else do you want to know? I will definitely tell you everything I know. Everyone keeps talking about the epic changing. I would like to know when the martial epic will end. Yes. Mu Zifeng said after some thought. No wonder the Imperial Ancestral Temple's elders are so confident, daring to work with the Underworld God Hall and the Demonic Dao Hall. It turns out that they already predicted that the Buddhist sect's days are numbered, which is why they are so bold. Even the Alliance chief did not have the authority to open it. Ji showed a cold expression as he smiled sinisterly. What objection can I have? Xiaochen, this old man once had an old grudge with you. Although you repay kindness, you are ruthless and vengeful. You are not a good person either. Let me ask you this, after you become the epic master, will you let go of this grudge? I'm not begging you. If you are not willing to let go, that is fine. In any case, you are someone who is about to die. I do not have to worry too much. Seeing Xiaochen remain silent, Mu Zifeng immediately understood that Xiaochen should have something to rely on. The golden Kasyapa Buddha body, which had existed since the birth of the martial epic, actually shattered on Spirit Vulture Mountain. Actually, Xiaochen was somewhat hesitant about whether to agree or not. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.